she shouted, her voice rising in frustration. "He took everything from me. He lied to me. He never treated me right. He made me feel like a fool." I pulled her back into my embrace. "I'm really sorry, Claire. I mean it. You don't care about me. You just want to say, 'I told you so,' don't you? Go on, just say it." "I would never do that. I'm truly sorry. What happened?" "I did what you said." I confronted him. At first, he denied it, but as we argued, I told him I knew the truth, and he finally admitted it. I held her gently, my hand resting on the back of her neck as I tried to comfort her. He accused me of things I didn't do, claiming I had been unfaithful when I was younger. She looked me in the eyes. "That's not true, Eddie. I never cheated on him. You have to believe me." "Claire, please relax. I believe you." She leaned back against me. "He said all kinds of terrible things and told me to calm down. He acted like nothing was wrong. Our lives were perfect, or so he said. What a joke." We stood close together, her head on my shoulder. "What am I going to do, Eddie?" "We need to eat something. Come on, let me get you some food." I guided her over to the caravan, where I began to look for something to prepare. I found some eggs and put them in a pan, while Claire found 2 beers and opened them easily. She handed me one, looking at me challengingly. "What, you think I've only ever had fancy drinks?" We clinked our bottles together in a toast, and she took a big sip, then sat on the bed. "Forget him, Eddie. Just forget him. All this talk about honesty was nonsense." She took another drink. I scrambled the eggs, adding some chives and garlic. I served the scrambled eggs on 2 plates. She sat cross-legged on the bed with her plate between her knees. After sprinkling salt and pepper on her food, she took a bite. "Oh, wow, this is great." She finished her drink and dug into her meal eagerly. We ate quickly, and I reached into the fridge for 2 more beers. While we were eating, her phone rang. "What do you want?" she answered sharply. I guessed it was Tony, but I couldn't hear his response. "Why do you even care? Forget you. I'm going to do what I want now. You gave up that right." Tears streamed down her face, falling onto her empty plate, which I took from her lap. "No, Tony, we are done. There is no more us. You embarrassed me for all these years. You think you're better than everyone else." I tossed the plates into the sink as she continued. "I want you out of our house, or I will tell the board everything." In a flash, her phone hit the cabinet and shattered into pieces. She fell back on the bed, crying hard. I lay down next to her and pulled her into my arms. "Let it out. Just let it all out." I held her tightly, feeling her grip around my head, her face pressed into my shoulder. I rubbed her back gently, trying to comfort her. She was shaking, warm against me, her tears soaking my shirt. She must have sensed my discomfort. She shifted closer, pressing against me. She whispered softly against my neck, but I knew I needed to stop this. "Claire, please don't do this. It's not right. Don't you want me? Am I unattractive? Claire, you are beautiful. If things were different. Eddie, this isn't revenge. I've wanted to be close to you since we first met. No, Claire, you're upset and feeling hurt. This isn't the way." Then our lips touched, and I felt lost in the moment. "Claire, please, let me just hold you." Her lips pressed against mine, tasting of her tears. "Eddie, I need this." I wrapped my arms around her. I kissed her forehead and eyes. "No, Claire." Her tears returned, and her body shook with sobs. I covered us with a blanket and held her as she drifted off. Soon, I fell asleep too, feeling grateful to have her close. Morning came more quickly than I hoped. I woke up tired, with Claire still curled around me. I carefully moved my arm to go to the bathroom. Stepping outside, the warm summer rain felt refreshing against my face. I stood in the grass, enjoying the moment. When I returned inside, Claire sat on the bed, resting her head on her arms. She looked up at me, frustration in her eyes. What had I done now? I made some toast and brewed tea for both of us. We sat together on the bed, listening to the soft sound of rain falling on the roof. "What's wrong, Claire? Did I do something?" "Nothing, don't you get it? I feel old and useless. Even you don't want me." No wonder he looks for attention from other women. "Claire, that's not true. You're beautiful." "Then why? I tried to show you how I felt last night, and you pushed me away. Am I really that unattractive?" I held her face in my hands and kissed her. It was a long, heartfelt kiss, and she kissed me back. As we pulled away, I whispered, "Claire, I have so many feelings right now, and it must be even harder for you. I really want you, but I want it to be special, not just because you're upset with your husband. Eddie, you're such a wonderful man." After breakfast, we sat and watched the rain, feeling warm and a little refreshed. "So what will you do now?" "I need to go home and take care of the dogs. I bet he didn't do it. Then I need to call my lawyer. He thinks I'm joking, but I'm very serious." "Please don't act out of anger, Claire. Think it over for a few days. When things are clearer, then you can decide." "You think I should forgive him, don't you?" I shook my head quickly and said, "No way, but you have a long history together. Some of those years must have been happy." She sighed and nodded slowly. "They were. We started with nothing. It was only my modeling money that helped us. We had good times, which makes this so painful. He ruined those happy memories for a moment with someone else." I showed her where the shower was, just a simple camp shower attached to the caravan. With the rain, the water was cold, barely warm enough. When she came back inside, she took off her towel. I gasped as she stood there. "What are you looking at?" "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to stare. Claire, you're such a stunning woman." She walked closer to me. "Thank you, Eddie. At least you're kind." She got dressed, and with a final kiss, she left quickly. I stood there wishing I had taken my chance. I wanted to. Going to work was hard. It was a long, tiring day. No matter what I did, I couldn't stop thinking about Claire. She was incredible. I couldn't believe Tony would cheat on someone like her. It made me think of that night Rose was with him, not a memory I wanted to revisit. I tried to call Claire several times to check on her. Then I remembered her phone was in many pieces on the floor of the caravan. I heard nothing for 2 days. She didn't call or send any messages. I was beginning to worry. On Friday evening, I got home and saw Claire's car parked by the caravan. As I got out of my car, her dogs rushed over, barking excitedly around my feet. I grabbed my bags of groceries from the trunk of my old Corolla and went to the door. I peeked inside and she was busy cooking. The smell was wonderful. My mouth watered. "Something smells great." She nodded. "I hope so, but this little stove isn't working well." "Yeah, I don't use it much. Sorry, I should have mentioned that." "Don't worry, you didn't know." I put my groceries away in the small pantry. It was packed to the brim. Claire must have already filled it up. We ate outside in the lovely evening air. "Are you going to tell me what happened?" I asked. She nodded. "Of course. Tony and I had another fight, and this one was worse than the last. I told him he needed to leave. If he didn't, I would go public with my claims. I told him I would not only share my experience, but also go to the board." "What did he say?" "After a lot of arguing, he asked if he could have 2 days over the weekend to move out." "He is really moving?" "Yes, I promised to stay away for those 2 days while he packs." "That sounds pretty final." She nodded. "Yes, it is over. I couldn't live with him after all this. He is a dishonest and sneaky person. The food was amazing, and the wine was tasty." "Where will you stay?" I asked. Looking at me, her fork swirling her food around her plate, she whispered, "Here, if that's all right." "Here," I exclaimed. "Don't you want me to?" "Sorry, I didn't mean it to sound that way. You are welcome to stay, but it's a bit cramped with no proper toilet or shower." "Eddie, it has one thing I need right now." Nervously, I asked, "What is that?" "You. I need someone who will support me and not take advantage of me. There are plenty of those who would, but you have shown that you care for me." I smiled, and we toasted each other. To lighten the mood, I suggested, "Come on, let's go for a walk." We gathered the dogs and walked towards the back. As we strolled, I felt her hand slip into mine. I looked at her, and she smiled warmly. I squeezed her hand gently and held on as we walked along the path, the dogs barking happily. When we returned, she asked, "Do you think there will be enough water for a shower?" I nodded. "Probably, but only enough for one. You go ahead." She looked surprised. "No, you've been working all day. You go first." She went inside, and I quickly took off my clothes and stepped into the shower, pulling the curtain around me. As I pulled the cord, water spilled out, and I quickly washed up, hoping there might be enough left for a second rinse. The shampoo stung my eyes, and I shut them tight, rubbing to clear my vision. Just then, I felt a cool breeze. Before I could react, someone stepped in close to me. When I opened my eyes, there was Claire, right next to me, her face smiling as she reached out to help. She placed her hands gently on my shoulders, and her fingers worked through my hair, massaging the shampoo into my scalp with care. Her touch was warm, and I felt a bit unsteady from the unexpected help. Claire poured some shampoo into her hands, spreading it over my shoulders and back. "Hope you don't mind. I thought we could save some water this way. Is that okay?" I nodded, momentarily speechless. She smiled, and I took a small amount of shampoo, running it gently through her hair. We worked together in comfortable silence, the water pouring down over us, rinsing the suds away as we cleaned up. We laughed as the water suddenly turned cold, jolting us out of the calm moment. Surprised, we both moved to get out of the stream at once, stumbling slightly in our hurry. Standing together on the grass, we looked at each other and burst into laughter, sharing the moment. I quickly grabbed a towel to dry her off. Kneeling at her feet, I wiped down her legs and admired her figure. As I finished, she pulled me up gently. With a mischievous smile, she took the towel from my hands and knelt in front of me, using the towel to dry my skin. While I was getting dried off, she leaned forward and gave me a gentle kiss, catching me by surprise. I had to steady myself. "Oh my gosh, Claire." She looked up at me, her expression playful. "Be quiet, or he'll stop." "No, please don't." "What? Don't you like this?" "I meant stop. Please don't stop." She giggled softly before leaning in closer. In that moment, I felt like I was floating. I wanted this feeling to last forever, but I wanted more. With a playful grip on her beautiful hair, I lifted her gently, placing one hand under her to carry her into the caravan. It could have been romantic, except the doorway was very small. It was quite the challenge for both of us. She laughed and kissed me, put me down. Then we shared a moment of understanding as we stood beside the bed. I saw a hint of hesitation in her eyes mixed with doubt. "Claire, we don't have to rush into anything. We can wait for another time." "Oh no, you're not getting away that easily. Eddie, this is a big step for me, but I want this just as much as you do." Our time together was filled with excitement and passion. It felt wonderful and comforting to be close to each other. The next morning, I woke up to the warmth of her affection. We shared a sweet moment together, lost in our own little world. Later, we cuddled and talked, enjoying each other's company while the caravan swayed gently around us. The next morning, Claire was gone, leaving me feeling both breathless and a bit tired. I knew I needed to focus and finish the house. Later that day, I heard a car pulling up. I walked outside, hoping to see Claire again, but as I got closer to the door, I noticed another door closing. Claire looked as stunning as always, tall and elegant, but along with her was Rose, who also looked captivating and intriguing. The moment had come. I stood up to greet them. "Hi, Claire." Rose seemed a little nervous, her body language showing she was uncertain. Claire walked right up to me, her yellow dress blowing gently in the warm breeze. When she reached me, she opened her arms and we hugged. "Hello, Eddie dear. Are you going to say hello to Rose?" We shared a brief kiss, and Claire stepped back. There stood Rose in front of me. "Hi, Eddie," she said softly, her voice a little shaky. We stayed frozen for a moment until I felt Claire give me a gentle push. "Don't be rude, Eddie." I stumbled a bit but fell into her arms. We hugged again for a moment. "Hello, Rose." "All right. We're here for the big reveal. Don't keep us waiting," Claire urged. "It's not ready. This isn't a proper reveal," I said, sounding a little annoyed. "Oh, come on. You've kept me in the dark for too long. I can't wait to see what you've done." "Okay, let's go check it out." I led them to the large French doors in the main living area. As we turned the corner of the building, I saw Rose's reflection in the glass. She looked surprised when I opened the doors and gestured for them to enter. "Oh my goodness, Eddie, this is amazing," Claire exclaimed. Rose took a sharp breath, and I could feel my heart race. She always had that effect on me. I stood aside as they walked past. Rose looked fantastic, more fit than I remembered. It was clear she had been working out. They walked around the room, looking at the big stone fireplace, the tall beams, and the polished wooden floor. Claire wandered into the kitchen, and her excited shout made us both jump. "Eddie, this is incredible. You've really outdone yourself." Rose walked around the kitchen island, her hand gliding over the quartz counter. She spun around, thrilled by the big windows up top. They stood together, opening the pantry and cupboards. Rose looked back at me. "Eddie, it's wonderful. I can't believe you did all of this. You're amazing." They both then went down the hallway to the bedrooms. I heard them laughing, enjoying the space. I walked back to the caravan and put the kettle on for tea. They came back about half an hour later, holding hands and smiling brightly. Since I only had 2 chairs, I grabbed a box to sit on. They pulled their chairs close around the small table. We fell into silence, and it became a little uncomfortable. I waited, but no one seemed to know what to say. I realized I needed to break the ice. "How have you been, Rose?" She looked up from her tea and smiled. "Really good, actually. Just busy with work and everything." "Yeah, and congratulations, by the way. Claire told me you started working with Tony. Are you having fun?" Claire's intense look made it clear she did not like that question. "I actually quit. Did Claire not tell you? Once I learned what kind of person he really is, I couldn't work with him anymore." I glanced at Claire. Her brow was tight, but she didn't say anything. "Sorry, Claire didn't mention that. Where are you working now?" She raised her arms in a gesture of giving up. "Nowhere right now. I spoke with my old company and they seem interested. I've sent out some feelers, but nothing yet." Claire glared at me as tears began to roll down her cheeks. I could still feel her piercing gaze. Rose noticed the tears too and quickly hugged Claire. "Oh, I'm sorry for bringing that up. We should have been more careful." She looked at me with worried eyes. Claire kissed her quickly and pushed her away gently. "No, I need to get used to it. We will be under the spotlight when our divorce becomes public. I need to learn to be strong. It's not your fault, dear. If it weren't for you, I would never have found out." Rose sighed. I wish I hadn't said anything. "No, don't think that. You did what was right. I just have to learn to be strong. I don't want to be the sad ex-wife." "You are far from that, sweetheart. You have so much to look forward to your charity work. People care about you and rely on you. I couldn't get by without you." They hugged again, and I watched as they pulled apart. Claire hadn't told Rose about our situation. Was there even an us? What was it? I made more tea while they enjoyed the sunshine. When I came back with the tea and some cookies, Rose asked, "What about you, Eddie? Claire mentioned you were working at Rixon's. How's that going?" "It's all right. It pays the bills." She frowned, her expression tense. "That must feel a bit dull after your other projects." "The pace is slower, which gives me time to focus on the cottage, and I like that." "When do you think you'll finish the cottage, Eddie?" I shrugged casually. "Not sure. I'll probably finish the construction in the next month or so. After that, I'll lock it up and look for a job that pays better. I have an offer for a well-paying job in the Emirates, but it's for a year." Claire looked shocked. "What? Why not just increase your mortgage?" "No, I don't like the idea of being in debt and paying a lot back. I'm not in a rush. If it stays locked up for a year, that's fine. You could rent it out and let someone else help pay your mortgage." "Yeah, I thought about that, but I can't afford to buy all the appliances." Claire exclaimed, "I'll just give you the money. You shouldn't leave just because of money." "I'm not asking for charity, Claire. I can take care of myself." "I appreciate the offer, but that's not how I do things." She began to cry again. "I was just trying to help. I don't want you to leave." Rose looked at Claire, deep in thought. "Eddie, I could help you with the money. If you won't let Claire assist you, maybe I could lend you some cash." When I didn't answer, she let out a sigh. "Eddie, I really want to help. You may not think well of me, but I care about you. I would feel honored if you would let me help." I said no. "Thanks for the kind offer, Rose, but I mean it. Keep your money." "Eddie, it's not just mine. It belongs to both of us. The money I earned from investing our funds, half of that money is still yours. I took my fair share. If you made extra from your investments, good for you. Please take the money. With it, you could finish the house. You wouldn't have to travel so much." "Rose, I don't want your money." "Why does it bother you so much?" I scoffed. "Eddie, this place is beautiful, and I want to see it completed. Remember when Tony brought us here after Gordon's party? I was amazed. The old stonework was stunning. I felt bad knowing this was your vision, and I used to turn my back on it. Not everyone sees it like that." "No, but you did. I was too focused on proving myself to even listen to you. I heard you and Gordon talk about your plans, but all I could think about was my investments back home. It's okay, dear, Claire said, as Rose started to cry again. Claire embraced her, and they both sat together in their sorrow. I went inside and grabbed a box of tissues, handing it to Rose, who took it with thanks. Thanks, dear. She wiped away Claire's tears and her own, sniffing loudly. Eddie, I didn't value you enough. I was so caught up in my world that I lost sight of you, and I'm truly sorry for everything. I'm sorry too, Rose. I said hurtful things. I felt lessened when you turned to Tony for help. It stung because you relied on him for advice and support, even if it wasn't physical. It felt like an emotional affair. Looking up at me with tears in her eyes, she replied, I understand now. I was so upset with you at that time. I found you a good job, and when you turned it down, it hurt. It felt like you didn't trust my choices. No, Rose, you're mistaken. I realized you were right. It was a good opportunity. I just didn't want to owe Tony anything. I could see what he was trying to do. It hurt to warn you, and for you not to see it or take my thoughts into account. Rose wiped her tears, her expression serious. Thinking back, what we know now makes everything look simple. At that time, I thought he was just being kind. I admit I had a bit of a crush. I wanted you back. I felt lonely. I was tired of living without you. I was young and felt left behind. She wiped her nose and sniffed. I was trying to build a future for us. I wanted to make some money so we could finally have a home. I stood there, not saying anything, just looking. She continued, I had a plan. I could earn us money. I laid it all out for you. I showed you everything. I proved I could do it. But even though you promised to back me, you turned on me, shouting like I was a child. I was upset because you didn't tell me. You took our money without even asking me. I had no say in it. Tony said to go ahead, so you did. It always feels like his thoughts matter more than mine. Eddie, it wasn't like that. I didn't tell you because I knew what you would think. You would make it all about him, but really it wasn't. I hoped you wouldn't notice for a little while, and by then, I would have enough to show you I could do it. The tension was thick now, and Claire sensed things were about to get out of hand. She gently held Rose's face, turned it, and kissed her on the cheek. It's okay, sweetheart. Take a deep breath and let it out. Slowly, Rose calmed down. Claire then said, I think we should go now and let you think. Thanks for everything, Eddie. Yes, this place is lovely, Rose added. We hugged before they drove away. My heart raced as I watched the car disappear. Until that moment, I thought I was over Rose. I believed she was a part of my past. Now I realize that wasn't true. Love. I'm not sure. What I knew was that it hurt to see her leave. Claire had complicated things. She was beautiful, but what did that mean for us? What would Rose say when she found out? Would it ruin their friendship? All the talk about an open marriage seemed distant now. I rushed into the house, trying to forget, but their faces were stuck in my mind. Her scent still hung in the air. It was late when Claire came back. I was cooking dinner when she walked in. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked upset. I opened my arms wide for her, and we shared a tender kiss that lightened the mood. She smiled at me and said softly, Thank you, love. We sat on the bed, and she quickly finished her food, stealing some of my fries. Eddie, she still loves you. I nodded while sipping my beer. I guess you didn't tell her about us? She shook her head. No, how could I? When we drove away, she was really upset and said how much she still loves you. What could I say? She took a thoughtful sip of her wine. You weren't really thinking about moving away, were you? Kind of. I need to earn some money to finish the house. Please, Eddie. I can't handle it if you leave now. I really need you. You're the only reason I'm managing. I don't know, Claire. I want to finish the house, but the longer I stay here, the deeper in debt I get. I don't want to go. I don't know what we have, but I like it. Is there really an us? Am I being foolish? Eddie, there is definitely an us. I couldn't have made it through the last week without you. I feel lost inside, and you've been my lifeline. I appreciate that you haven't rushed anything. She frowned and added, He'll give you the money. If it means keeping your pride, he'll find you a job. A job doing what? I don't know, anything to keep you here? She smiled playfully. How about being my partner? You could help me out. If that's what you want, I'm sure you could find someone better than me. Eddie, please stop saying that. I love that you're down to earth and not full of yourself, but you always sell yourself short. You're a wonderful man, and I'm very happy with you. She laughed at my blush. That evening, we shared a moment that felt special, and we were learning more about each other. Claire was full of life, adventurous and ready for new experiences. Every night felt like an exciting journey. But I could sense that something was troubling Claire. As we lay together, I felt her tension. Eddie, I want to tell Rose. I feel awful hiding this from her. She has been so kind and supportive. I want to be honest. Surprised, I asked, "Wow, how do you think she'll react?" I honestly don't know. We've talked, and I know she still has feelings for you and hopes to get back together. If that's true, she won't take it well. You might end up losing her friendship. So you want me to keep lying to her? No, absolutely not. You know I can't stand lies. I'm just worried about what will happen. If she believes there's still a chance for you two, this will really change things. I know, but what can I do? She asks about you all the time. She wants to know how you're doing and how the house is coming along. That will change as soon as she finds out that we're together. It could get really uncomfortable. She held back a tear. I can't keep lying to her. If she reacts badly, I don't know what it'll do. If not for her, I wouldn't have learned about Tony. Okay, what do you want me to do? I'm going to tell her tomorrow. It might be hard because she hasn't been able to find a job. I'll take her to lunch and hope for the best. The next day, I went to work feeling thoughtful. Once Claire told Rose about everything, the chance for us to make up was gone. I spent the whole day checking my phone. Lunch came and went, but still no word. Should I call or text? Texting felt harsh. What if Rose got upset and left? Claire was already in a delicate spot, and losing her best friend would only make things worse. 3 o'clock passed, then 4. Finally, at 5, I was able to leave. I hurried home, hoping to see Claire's car by the caravan, but it wasn't there. I started making dinner. Should I cook for 1 or 2? I decided on 2. Time passed, and my phone stayed quiet. I started to worry. What if something was wrong? I couldn't stay in this uncertainty all night. I had to find out what was happening. I called her mobile. It rang for a while before a cheerful voice answered, "Yes." "Is that you, Rose?" I asked, trying to make sense of it all. "Yes, it is. What have you done to my friend?" she replied, her voice playful. In the background, I heard Claire laughing. "Give me the phone." The voice shifted again. "Hello, darling. Are you okay?" Claire asked, still giggling. Rose added in, "Is that you? You troublemaker." "Are you drunk?" I asked, surprised. "Sorry, yes, we may have had a drink when we got home." "Are you at your place?" "Yes, we're having a good time. Why don't you come over?" "I was making dinner. I have yours ready too." "You sweetheart. Wait, let me ask Rose. Shall we go over?" Claire said. "Yes, I'm so hungry," Rose shouted. "Thanks, my dear, we're on our way." "Both of you?" "Of course." I went back to the stove. How was I going to make enough food for 3? I added more potatoes and found extra chicken to cook. Sinking back on my bed, I thought, what just happened? Half an hour later, my peace shattered. I heard singing and dogs barking loudly. I filled their bowls with water and stepped outside. I looked up the drive and spotted Rose and Claire, holding on to each other, trying to walk straight as they stumbled their way towards me. The singing grew louder as they burst through the door, with Claire at the bottom and Rose sprawled over her. They giggled as they tried to stand up. Claire said, "Get up, you're in my way." Rose teased back, "You're the one who stole my husband." Claire laughed and replied, "I didn't steal him. He was just there." The room filled with laughter as they continued their playful banter. As Rose got up, Claire mumbled, "It was an accident. He was just lying there." "Oh, really? And you just kept making that accident happen, didn't you?" Claire laughed. "Oh, yes, and it was hilarious." They chuckled as they helped each other up. "What have you two been drinking?" I asked. They exchanged mischievous glances. "We started with his precious 20-year-old Glenlivet," Claire began, then moved on to his brandy, then his bourbon, and finally, we figured the vodka looked lonely, so we had that too. Rose laughed. "He's going to be so mad." "Not as mad as you two are right now," I pointed out. Claire grabbed a bottle of champagne from the fridge. Let's have another. I took the bottle from her hands. Don't you think you had enough? No, they shouted in unison. Let's go outside, Claire suggested, pulling Rose along. They linked arms and staggered out into the yard, collapsing into camp chairs. They began talking over each other, laughing and rambling on about random things, lost in their drunken cheerfulness. I brought some snacks out, though I wasn't sure it would help. They were already too far gone. I left them chatting, barely understanding what they were saying as they continued to declare how much they cared for each other. Claire, I love you so much, Rose slurred. I love you more, darling, Claire replied, grinning. Wait, isn't Eddie your darling? Rose teased. Yes, but you're my best friend. I love you tons, Claire said, giggling. Their back and forth was almost nonsense, but they seemed happy. I ate my own dinner, wondering where this was all headed. Suddenly, I heard a loud thud. Rose had slipped off her chair and was on her knees, clearly not feeling well. Claire noticed, lost her balance too, and followed suit. I rushed over, helping Rose back into her chair and then helping Claire. Claire wrapped her arms around me for balance. Oh, Eddie, this is awful. You must think we're a mess. I laughed. You'll both regret this in the morning, trust me. Just then, Rose leaned forward looking sick again, and I quickly grabbed a towel to help her. She didn't smell great, so I guided her inside to wash up. I helped her to the shower, keeping things simple to make sure she felt better. The warm water seemed to calm her down. Eddie, what was I thinking? She whispered, looking embarrassed. I reassured her as she relaxed under the water. Afterward, I brought her back out to the fresh air and placed her in a clean spot. Claire was still a bit unsteady, so I helped her too, getting her comfortable beside Rose. They leaned on each other, resting as I made sure they were both wrapped up warmly, ready to sleep off the night. Thank goodness it was a warm night. Claire had a few clothes there, but not many. Once they were dry, I put fresh tops and bottoms on her and led her into the caravan, laying her on the bed. Then it was Rose's turn. She was so drunk she was out cold. I quickly changed her into clean clothes. The tops were a little loose. Claire was definitely bigger than Rose. At least they were dry. As I put her clothes back on, I noticed how fit she looked. Her new workout routine had really shown results. Her muscles were firm. She looked great. I lifted her up and brought her inside as gently as I could. I laid her down beside Claire. As soon as Claire felt her next to her, she murmured, I love you, Rose. They snuggled up together, half awake, while I stepped outside to clean up and change my wet clothes. When I returned, they were already fast asleep. Outside, I looked around. What a mess. I grabbed the hose and cleaned the area to get rid of the smell. I searched until I found my old sleeping bag and brought it outside. Sleep came slowly. I went back inside a few times to check on them. They were asleep, all wrapped up together. How did that happen? I curled up with the dogs next to me. Morning came with light breaking through the clouds. I peeked out of my sleeping bag and took a deep breath. I had a feeling that there would be a lot of mixed feelings under the surface from last night. I could still hear their snores outside. Slowly getting up, I stretched and filled my lungs with fresh air. I gathered all the wet and dirty clothes and walked to my little shed that I used for laundry. I tossed them in, started the wash, and went back inside to make some tea. Even with all the noise I made, they didn't wake up. They were sound asleep. I made a cup of tea, hung the clean clothes on the line, and waited. It was amusing to listen to them as they started to stir. Rose was the first to wake up. What happened? Why are we in bed together? Shh, please. My head is pounding. There was a pause, then Rose again. Claire, why am I wearing your clothes? Please, quietly. Are you? Rose must have started to realize where they were. Oh no, why are we here? I can't remember anything. Stop, please. I really need tea. She called, Eddie, could you be a sweetheart and make us some tea? I poked my head in and laughed a little. Morning, you party animals. Rose looked at me, but I couldn't read her expression. Eddie, how did I get here, and why am I wearing Claire's clothes? First off, you made your way here. Well, staggered, really. After you both got sick and made a mess of your clothes, I had to help dress you. Oh, no, they both said together. I made some tea and took it outside. They followed me, Claire looking hurt, and Rose wrapped up in a blanket. Where are my clothes? I pointed to the clothesline and she sighed. Thanks, Eddie. We sipped our tea quietly with the occasional oh no escaping as memories from the night before came back to mind. It took about 30 minutes before they were ready to eat. I kept it simple, toast and jam, with coffee for Rose since I knew she loved it. That started to clear the air a bit. Rose kept glancing at me, and I could see some sadness peeking through her brave front. Claire was the first to speak up. Rose, will you be okay with Eddie and me together? She nodded. I'm surprised, but I'm glad you have someone to help you. Claire smiled and held Rose's hand gently. Thank you. I know this is shocking, especially for me. Rose then looked at me. So, what happens now? Are you going to tell people, or keep it a secret? Claire answered. I would prefer if nobody else knows until I finish things with Tony. I don't want to give him any reason to cause trouble. Rose agreed. That makes sense. But is this forever, or just a short thing? Rose, it's too early to say. I didn't plan for this. It just happened. Claire replied softly. That's understandable. I feel sad, happy, and confused, but mostly happy. I care about both of you. I realized this was her way of handling her feelings. Then she surprised me with another question. Where are you going to live? Claire turned to look at me quickly. Oh, wow. We haven't even talked about living together. Rose, we're still getting to know each other. I'm sorry if this is difficult to hear. But you are living together, right? Well, I'm just trying to give Tony some time. He's moving out, and once he is gone, he'll go back home. Then maybe we'll talk about living arrangements. Rose was persistent. If you live together, it makes sense to be at your place because it's much bigger. Claire looked at me and I raised my shoulders. Rose then asked, what will you do with this place if that happens? I didn't have an answer. She quickly said, would you sell it to me, or at least rent it? Rose, we're jumping ahead. Claire might not want to stay with me by then. Can we please take things one step at a time? She thought about it. But it's a possibility, right? I shrugged again. Yeah, I guess it could be, but it's not even finished yet. I might not be able to finish it. I don't mind. You'll buy it like it is. I chuckled quietly. You can't afford it. How much do you want for it? 400,000 pounds, I said without thinking. She frowned, did some quick math in her head, and replied, sold. The two of them changed in the caravan. I heard their laughter as they jostled for space. When they stepped out, Rose and I hugged, and she whispered, please take care of her. Don't hurt her. She can't handle being left again. I wouldn't do that. In a soft voice, she said, you did it to me. As they got ready to leave, Claire came over and wrapped her arms around my neck, leaning in close. Our lips met in a kiss that felt electric. I felt her weight shift as she balanced against me. As we pulled away, I noticed Rose watching us, her eyes filled with tears and the saddest expression I had ever seen. I felt awful. I was doing the worst thing possible, kissing another woman in front of her. I kicked a stone hard as they walked away. Ugh, I grumbled to myself. What's wrong with me? Just a week earlier, I was thinking about making things right, and now I was reminding her of my mistake. The week went by and I tried to call Rose. I must have picked up the phone 100 times, but always hesitated. What could I say? I'm sorry for hurting you. Claire decided to move back home. Tony was asking lots of questions and being quite difficult. He was trying to make things hard for her. Now that the truth was out, Claire had seen how he had not been faithful. Each thing she learned revealed more of his wrong choices. He had a serious problem. We met every day for dinner or drinks. We talked, and the real Claire came out. She was warm, funny, and caring. Strangely, her bond with Rose seemed to grow stronger. After seeing us kiss, I thought Rose would walk away, but she showed real strength. If I had seen her with someone else, I would have lost my cool. On Wednesday night, I began cutting some wood for a deck. I was focused and didn't notice the car pull up. I nearly jumped when someone patted my back. My heart raced as I turned to see Claire and Rose. I switched off the saw and said, "Wow, Claire, you scared me. You can't sneak up on someone with a saw." She looked sorry and said, "Sorry about that." I took off my safety gear and walked over to them. Well, we got tired of waiting. You never called, so we thought if you weren't taking us out, we would come to you. That phone call popped back into my mind. Yes, I was supposed to pick them up for dinner. Sorry, I said. She gave a playful growl. It will be fine, but you need to behave. Rose was spreading a blanket on the ground. We're having a picnic. They began to unpack baskets filled with food and drinks. As we lay down, delicious smells filled the air. Wow, spicy chicken wings, Mongolian barbecued spare ribs, and fresh salads. It was a real feast. While we ate, Claire skillfully guided the conversation. We talked about many things: work, music, friends, and funny stories. It was such a fun night. It was well past dark when Rose decided it was time to go. I felt disappointed when she started to pack up. Claire looked puzzled too, but didn't say anything. We shared hugs, and Rose and I exchanged a quick kiss. It felt a bit awkward, but it ended our visit on a nice note. It was a freeing moment. It wasn't much, but it felt like another step towards something. I wondered if the changes in my life meant more than just keeping busy with the house. Was I secretly trying to win her over? I couldn't find the answer. As it often happened in my life, I was at a turning point. The house was nearing completion. It needed finishing touches like lighting, doors, paint, and of course appliances and furniture. I had used up my credit card, and now the extra payments were draining my bank account. I could continue living my current way, putting the house project on hold. I could work on it bit by bit, but would have to stay in the caravan. More importantly, Claire and I were growing closer, even though I didn't see her much lately. She was busy fighting for a fair deal with Tony. Their situation was in the hands of lawyers and had become very intense. He wasn't giving in easily. I wasn't sure who leaked some of his personal issues to the media, but a local journalist was after the story. There were many unpleasant stories surfacing. Tony's struggle was now not just with Claire, but also with the board. His reputation took a serious hit, and they wanted him out. Thankfully for him, the Old Boys Network supported him. This may have led him to settle with Claire, allowing her to keep the house, while he took the beach house and his cars. They split everything equally, and he agreed to pay her a significant amount of financial support. Once the deal was settled, Claire felt relieved. She returned to spending nights with me in the caravan. We shared some incredible times together, exploring new things without any hesitation. Rose had turned down things that Claire welcomed with open arms. Now Rose and Claire were closer than ever. They had always been good friends, but now they were practically inseparable. When we went out, it was never just Claire and me. It was always the three of us. It was fun, and it certainly made me feel good to have two wonderful women by my side. What started to bother me was when Claire began suggesting people for Rose to date. She wanted Rose to find happiness, so she took on the role of matchmaker. That might have been fine for Claire, but it drove me nuts. Fortunately, Claire's choices were not right for Rose. The men she introduced her to were all snobbish types. Even I could see that these weren't the right fit for Rose. I could tell by the look on her face during one of these awkward introductions. Still, this situation took away my guilt about showing affection to Claire around Rose. Claire had planned another double date for us and Rose, with her latest match being a banker. While getting ready in the caravan, Claire said, "Hurry up, darling. We don't want to be late." "I don't care. I don't even want to go," I replied. "Oh, don't be like that, my love. I just want to help Rose. She's feeling lonely." "But it's not our responsibility. We aren't her caretakers." "No, but we are her friends. Don't you want to support her?" "Claire, she is my ex-wife. It doesn't feel right to go on dates with her. It's uncomfortable." Now, my love. Rose doesn't mind. I feel bad that she wanted to try again with you. I know I shouldn't have interfered." "Claire, it wasn't going to happen. I wasn't planning on getting back together with her. She doesn't know that. Surely you can see her sadness when we're out together. I feel like I can't even kiss you around her because of how it affects her." "I understand that. That's why I think Rose should handle her own life. But she hates going out alone." "Then maybe you should go out without me. Let me stay home." "No, if this is a way to make things right, we both need to be there for her." We picked up Rose on the way, and as usual, she looked fantastic. She had been spending her free time at the gym, and was in great shape. We arrived at the restaurant just after her date, Matt. We met him at the bar where he ordered drinks. I noticed Rose's expression change when he started speaking. His accent was posh and not her style. I tried to spark a conversation, mostly because Claire nudged me in the ribs. Claire says you're a banker, Matt. Yes. I'm here to close a deal. What about you? Oh, me? I'm just an engineer. Nothing special. Oh, stop it, Edwin. Matthew. He's a project manager, right, dear? I shrugged. I guess it doesn't really matter. I turned to Rose and asked, how's the job search going? Good. I think I'm making progress. I spoke to my old boss and she wants to bring me back. I'll get my old job again. I chuckled, trying not to sound skeptical. Back to where you started. Claire chimed in. Yes, but now she has much more experience. I'm sure they will offer you a better deal, right? Matt, how long are you staying in town? I interrupted. Another week or so. How do you like the old place? He scrunched his face. I suppose it's okay. It's not like London, though. There's so much more to do there. Good restaurants, he said, sounding unimpressed as he looked around. This was one of the nicer places in town. The table fell silent for a moment. What do you do in your spare time? Hobbies and things? The usual stuff. Golf, squash, polo when I can. Things are a bit busy right now. Polo sounds fancy. I enjoy sailing when I get the chance. I have my own boat. Really? A boat? That's impressive. I tried to hide my feelings. I guessed he also drove an expensive car. Are you into cars at all? He frowned. Not really. I have a Rolls, but it's an older model. Must be 2 years old. What about you? Oh, my old car. I drive a Corolla that's nearly 20 years old. I noticed Claire wince and Rose laugh. Matt looked around, not really understanding. We moved to our table and ordered our meals. Matt ordered more drinks for everyone. He took a long time to choose a nice bottle of wine for dinner. I could guess what he was thinking. Eventually, he picked the most expensive one. Claire kept the conversation going, guiding us and making sure there weren't any awkward pauses. However, Matt seemed a bit lost when Rose and I started talking about work. That led to her favorite topic, the house. Eddie, when are you going to prepare the papers for the house sale? Trying to sound serious, I replied. When Claire makes an honest man out of me. Claire shot me a look and I continued, until then I still need a place to park my home. Matt looked shocked. Goodness, do you live in a caravan? Claire replied sharply, oh, for goodness sake, Edwin. Then she turned to Matt. He's joking with you. He's actually building his own house, renovating a cottage to be exact. Claire gave me an amused glance and I saw her smile slightly. Oh, forget it, she said. I'm sorry, Matthew, but Eddie is a free spirit. He really does live in a caravan. We just didn't want to make Rose uncomfortable. He looked a bit confused. I don't mind, Edwin. If you're happy with a free spirit, then that's fine. Rose couldn't help but giggle. Eddie, stop being silly. The truth is, Matt, Eddie and I used to be married. He keeps trying to sell me off so he can stop paying me support. Isn't that right, dear? Yeah, well, if you didn't keep acting shy and let some of your dates get too close, we might get somewhere. Eddie, Claire scolded. Stop it. She doesn't act shy. She is just hard to impress. She is not someone easy. Turning back to Rose, I puffed out my chest. How much do you cost, my dear? Let's say you would need to sell that old caravan if you wanted me. We are not selling the caravan, Claire announced. We just got it fixed. Rose and I laughed out loud. Matt just looked at us like we were all a bit odd, which we probably were. Claire sighed. Forgive us, Matthew. We were just trying to be funny. Please don't take any of this seriously. He nodded, but he looked uncertain. His usual calm demeanor was fading. Matt's fancy wine arrived, and we all had to taste it as if it was the best drink we'd ever had. Because Claire, Rose, and I were so close, the conversation flowed easily, and Matt, poor Matt, started to feel left out. He tried his best. The trouble was, Rose wasn't that interested. We moved to a bar with live music where Claire and I danced. In the end, Matt got Rose up to dance, but they looked awkward together, and I could tell it wasn't going well. What made me uneasy that night was the way Rose watched us. Her gaze was sad. She was with a guy who wasn't too bad, but she looked at us like a puppy watching another dog with its favorite toy. As we danced, Claire whispered, Go and check on Rose, will you please? Yes, your wish is my command. I tapped Matt on the shoulder. Can I take a turn? I'd love to dance with my wife. What? Oh, I see you're joking again. No, really. She's my wife. This is just for fun. Sorry. He walked away, looking for something to say but struggling to find the words. Rose slipped into my arms easily. Her head rested on my shoulder and she whispered in my ear, "Could you please pick the next song? Claire's taste is terrible." "Hey!" I replied sharply. She chuckled softly. "Sorry, that doesn't count with current company." "Yeah, I get what you mean. It seems like she wants someone like Tony. She's not thinking of me. Did you tell her what you wanted?" "Yeah, I told her. I said I just wanted a wealthy guy who's really impressive." "How did she find that out?" I asked. "She told me she checked him out for me. She said he was quite impressive." She couldn't hold back her laughter. "You'll have to talk to her about it. Her taste is awful." "Yes, he had money, but honestly, he was just okay." "Wow, is that all? What a disappointment. I heard you wouldn't consider anything less than great." "Exactly. I mean, I have standards, right?" We danced easily. Her presence was comforting, and her scent filled the air. "Honestly, Rose, I'm glad to see you." "I'm fine," she said with a deep sigh. "Actually, no, I'm not. I'm feeling lonely. The house feels empty, and my life feels empty. I wish I had someone to hold me like you used to do. I want someone to look at me like you look at Claire. Why didn't we ever do that?" "We did. But then you met Tony, and things changed." "I'm really sorry, Eddie. I feel foolish." "It's all right. I guess I wasn't paying enough attention. I should have noticed. I made mistakes, too." She chuckled softly. "Yeah, you did." I was close to her, feeling the warmth from her body. It reminded me of our past. We were married, and it didn't take her long to notice that I still felt a spark. She moved playfully, and it stirred old feelings within me. "Is that for me?" she asked with a teasing tone. "Don't get ahead of yourself," I replied lightly. "Honestly, it feels a bit like I'm the other woman. We're flirting." "No, we're just having fun, but if you keep this up, I might end up with a problem," I joked. "I'd like to see that," she said, her voice playful in my ear. Just then, the band finished their set, giving me a moment to compose myself. Back at our table, Claire was sitting alone. "Where's Maddie?" Rose asked. "You scared him off." "I think he didn't know how to handle the situation," I replied. We all chuckled softly as Claire said seriously, "Seriously, how are we going to find you a new husband?" "I don't need a new one," Rose said. "I just want my old one back. You liked Maddie. Why didn't you take him? A swap could have worked." Claire looked surprised and pulled back, clearly taken aback by Rose's comment. Realizing she crossed a line, Rose quickly added, "Sorry, I was trying to lighten the mood." Claire nodded, a smile creeping back onto her face. "I've said before that I'm sorry for how things turned out. It wasn't planned. I didn't mean any harm." Rose sighed and took a big sip of her wine. "I know, but it's tough seeing you both together. Sometimes it's hard for me. I'm trying to be supportive, but at this moment, I'm struggling." To comfort her, Claire wrapped her arms around Rose and leaned in for a quick kiss on the cheek. It started as a friendly gesture of comfort, but the way they leaned into each other caught my attention. Their connection, although simple, felt charged in the moment. Claire looked tenderly at Rose, showing support in a way that truly mattered. Her hands held Rose's arms gently, moving across them and resting on her chest. It wasn't just a simple touch. Her hands moved, creating a sense of closeness, her fingers gently playing with sensitive spots. The kiss went on, and I struggled to look away from the surprising sight before me, but the sound of surprised voices pulled my attention around the room. Rose and Claire were clearly at the center of the evening's focus. Some people watched with interest, while others whispered their disapproval. Most were left speechless, taken aback by what they saw. Claire eventually let go of Rose, her hands sliding back up to her shoulders. As she raised her head, they paused, gazing into each other's eyes. Rose was the first to speak. "Wow, Claire." Claire smiled tenderly in response. "Yes, I completely agree." Straightening her yellow dress, she glanced around at the watchers before returning to sit next to me. When she leaned in, her lips touched mine softly, gently, invitingly as we kissed. Under the table, her hand that rested on my leg slowly moved up. She gave me a gentle squeeze. Breaking the kiss, she looked into my eyes. "Wow, Is that for me or Rose? Feeling brave, I said, Both. She smiled mischievously. Do you think you could handle that? The evening had reached a turning point. It could be an unforgettable night or an awkward one. We finished our drinks. Claire whispered, It would be a shame to waste them. Standing up, she grabbed the bottle and said loudly, Well, are you two coming? We stepped outside, Claire on one side and Rose on the other. The cool night air felt refreshing, pulling us out of our dreamy state. I led us back to my car, with Claire in the front and Rose in the back. Okay, where to? I asked. Rose said quietly, Drop me off at home, please. Oh dear, are you sure? Why not join us? You don't want to be alone, do you? No, but if I go with you, I'll just be extra. Please take me home. Her voice was soft, but it felt like a real request. When we reached her home, Rose got out quickly and called back, Enjoy your night. As we drove away, a sense of missed opportunity settled over us. On the motorway, Claire sighed sadly. That was tough to see. It breaks my heart to see Rose alone. Eddie, she truly is lonely. She just needs some support. Claire, if you genuinely want to help, then maybe stop trying to match her with guys like Tony. She's not you. She doesn't go for that type. I was only thinking about her future. I don't want her ending up with someone who'll let her down. But you're pushing your own choices on her. Are you missing Tony that much? Claire's gaze turned sharp. Don't ruin our night, Eddie. I was just trying to do the right thing. Well, it's clear that every guy you set her up with is basically another Tony. Maybe without realizing it, you're picking for her based on your own past. She gave me a cool look, unsettlingly steady. Is that what you think of me? That I'm still hung up on him? That I can't move forward? Is that really how you see me? I don't know, Claire. But I do know she hasn't liked a single one you've chosen. She leaned back, arms crossed. Fine then. You pick her next date. Not a chance. Honestly, I think we should let her choose for herself. If you're that worried, you could suggest she try a dating agency. Absolutely not. Eddie, she deserves better than that. I understand now I need to stop making choices for her. You'll talk to her and see what she wants. She slid her hand over mine as I shifted gears. Eddie, I'm sorry if it seemed like I was trying to relive my past. I just want you to know that I care deeply for you. A lump formed in my throat, making it hard to speak. This was the first time she had really said she cared like that, outside of casual moments. I felt the need to respond in kind. I care about you too, Claire. You mean a lot to me. Her hand gripped mine tightly. I've wanted to say this for a long time, but was worried you might not feel the same. I know there's a bit of an age gap. That doesn't matter to me. I only see someone I admire deeply, someone incredible. I don't know what you see in me, but am grateful to be with you. She smiled softly. So you're saying you want to be with me? Yes, absolutely. She gently rested her hand on my leg, sharing a warm smile. You're sweet. I'm glad we had this talk. That night, we curled up close in the caravan, feeling connected in a way that brought us closer. It was a peaceful and tender evening, full of shared warmth and understanding. She kissed me softly, her warmth welcoming and sincere. As I worked on the deck, I was focused and determined. The day was gray and gloomy, but I had a task to finish. Claire had gone back to her place, and I started my work. Around lunchtime, Rose and Claire appeared together, walking closely, as they often did these days. They seemed very connected. Hey, ladies, I greeted them. Hello, dear. Rose and I brought you some lunch. We knew you wouldn't take a break otherwise. We looked at the large area of wood that now made up the deck. What do you think? I asked as Rose handed me a pie and a sandwich. I found some sawhorses for them to sit on. I took a bite of my steak and mushroom pie, my favorite. Rose smiled. She understood my taste. Claire responded, Darling, it looks lovely. Just imagine having friends over on a sunny summer day. Rose added, It's perfect. It matches the house and the size is just right. After finishing our meal, Claire took Rose's hand and said, Let's go inside. I cleaned up while they moved indoors. I could hear them discussing furniture, light fixtures, and rugs for decorating. Rose was snapping pictures with her phone. Once I tidied up, I was closing the storage shed when Claire and Rose appeared behind me. Eddie, We need to chat about decorating, Claire said. I don't think so, I replied, feeling frustrated. I've already told you that I can't afford it. I don't even have enough money to finish building. It will just have to wait. Rose urged, Aren't you tired of living in the caravan? The house is so close. You could be living in here soon. Looking between them, I responded firmly. The caravan is fine. It works for now. Eddie, we just want to help you. Let me lend you some money. I felt irritated. No way. I take pride in this. I'm not looking for charity. I started this by myself and he'll finish it that way. I noticed Rose flinch and turn away, but Claire pressed on. Darling, if we're going to be a couple, you need to learn to accept my help. Rose interjected. Claire, I think we should drop it. Eddie is right. This was always his project, and none of us fully understood his vision. She turned to me. I'm sorry, Eddie. I wish I could have seen it like you did back when you first showed it to me. As the weeks went by, small tensions began to grow between Claire and me. She became frustrated that I didn't want any financial help. She also encouraged me to move into her place. Why should we stay in the caravan when we have this amazing house so close? It just doesn't make sense, my love. We were sitting comfortably in her home, pondering our next steps. After finishing a lovely meal, we were relaxing on a comfortable couch. It's all I can manage. I want to finish the work, and staying in the caravan lets me put in longer hours. That's nonsense, she replied sharply. It's just a 5-minute walk. We can shower and sleep in a real bed without having to climb over each other to get out. She was right, but this big house reminded me too much of Tony, and I didn't like being here. I understand, Claire, but I feel out of place. I half expect Tony to come bursting in any moment. She frowned at me. Are you saying you won't move in here? Not right now. Maybe later. But for now, the answer is no. Do you expect me to move in with you? I'm not sure. This has all happened so fast. I love you, Claire, but sometimes I wonder if I'm just a way to get back at someone. That's really hurtful. I've told you I love you. I want to live with you, but it doesn't make sense to leave this house empty while we stay in a caravan. You could sell it. She looked at me, shocked. Eddie, this house is mine. I found it. I negotiated for it and paid for it. This is the one good thing that came from my tough marriage. I love this house. Things were building up, not in a big way, but slowly. When she saw an email on my laptop about a job in Abu Dhabi, she got very upset. I had been working on the house, putting in new lights in the bathroom. I was on a ladder, pulling some wires from the ceiling and didn't notice her come in. Eddie. She scared me so much I nearly lost my balance. Claire, please don't sneak up on me like that. What is this email about a job in Abu Dhabi? I felt a bit guilty for not mentioning it earlier. I did bring it up before. They reached out to me again last week, and they are offering great terms. This would help me finish the house and get a new car. When were you going to tell me? On the way to the airport, right? No, I was waiting for the right moment, but it never seemed to come. What do you mean? She scoffed. I mean, we seem to be arguing a lot lately. She stormed off, upset. I finished connecting the lights before going back to the caravan. Claire was gone. Great, I muttered to myself. I had just rehearsed the perfect thing to say to her. I was getting hungry, so I started preparing dinner. I made enough for 2, just in case she came back. I was really hungry, and if she didn't show up, I would eat it all. She did come back, but she looked like she had been crying. She walked in just as I was putting food on the plates. She came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. Her warm breath brushed against my neck, making me shiver. I'm sorry, my dear. I shouldn't have been angry. She always knew how to make me feel special. I turned to look into her eyes. I'm sorry, too. I didn't mean to keep things from you, and I shouldn't have complained about the arguments. It's my fault as well. We moved to the dining table and sat down for dinner. We ate quietly, enjoying the tasty food. Eddie, can we talk seriously about the future? I nodded. I wasn't sure I wanted to have this conversation, but it felt necessary. Yeah, of course. Let's talk. I don't know where to start. I've always seen myself as a strong and independent woman. Tony changed that. He hurt me deeply. He lied and betrayed me. Now I feel lost and alone. You are the only one who brings me comfort. I don't want to lose you. You wouldn't lose me. You'll be away for just 12 months. Her expression changed. 12 months? Oh no. I don't know how I could manage without you for that long. Claire, when I first met you, I was amazed. You are so beautiful and strong. That first night, I was filled with admiration. You don't need me to feel whole. I do, Eddie. What would I do without you? You would continue with everything you do now. Help your charities, have lunch with friends, throw wonderful parties. Since meeting me, you've stopped doing those things. That's because I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. The truth is, it's Tony who made me stop having parties, not you. What does he have to do with it? Most of our friends have taken sides. Even my friends think it would have been best for me to just move on. That surprised me. They expected you to just accept his dishonesty? She nodded. Yes, in that world, wives are often expected to accept certain things. No one should ever have to accept that. Well, if we set that aside and I accept that you are leaving, what happens when you come back? I looked down at the floor, feeling unsure. I don't know. What do you want to happen? I want us to be a real couple, to live together, to have friends, to throw parties. I want you to help me with my charity work and stand by my side as my partner. Claire, I would happily do all of that except for where we would live. I know you love your home and it suits you well. The problem is, Tony's memory is everywhere in that house for me. I want to create new memories in a place that feels like ours, not his. That's not fair. He hurt me, not you. Why does it matter to you? He was after someone else from the start. At that first gathering, he went after her. It was like he was on a mission, finding a way to push me out of my own life. That first party marked the start of problems in my marriage. Why can't we find a middle ground? Redecorate and remove reminders of him. I want to do that anyway. I agreed. I think you should maybe get rid of his things in a big way. No, that's too easy. I plan to sell them for charity. He never liked that idea. He didn't believe in giving to those who wouldn't help themselves. She got up and poured us some fresh drinks. Eddie, I don't want you to go. Please let me help you financially. We need to share if we're going to be partners. I'm not taking your money, Claire. I have my pride. But it's just money. It doesn't mean much to me. It means a lot to me. I like who I am and what I've done. If I take your offer, it would bother me, and it might hurt our relationship. You would lose respect for me. She didn't seem to understand my concerns. Rose arrived a while later and we sat around chatting. Claire had already mentioned my job opportunity to her. Eddie, don't be foolish. Don't leave. Oh, come on, Rose. I'm not leaving to escape. I want to grow my career. This could be a great chance. What about Claire? Should she just wait here for you? No, not at all. I'll come back to visit. Babe, you could come see me too. We could make it like a trip. I noticed Rose flinch at me calling Claire babe. Claire was firm. I've been there. I don't want to go back. It's a bad place. Women are not treated well. I can visit home now and then. I could be back every couple of months. And I'm supposed to just wait? Like some servant? Come on, give me a break. I haven't even signed anything yet. I just want to explore my options. An awkward silence followed. Rose tried to change the topic. What about your house? It can wait. I'll finish it when I get back. You're going to leave it locked up for a year? Yeah, that seems best. What about my idea? Sell it to me? No, sorry, Rose. That place means a lot to me. I won't think about selling until I'm done. Okay, then how about renting it to me? Seriously, Rose? It's not finished. Let me help you with that. I can give you the money to finish it. Instead of rent, you'll use that. What? I said, confused. Let me make it clear for you. I give you the money, you finish the house, and I look after it while you're away. You won't have to worry about anyone staying there. It sounds like I'd still have someone in my house. What happens when I come back and you're living in my house? You could stay with Claire. By then, we will have fixed up the place and gotten rid of Tony. Just think about living in that big house. You could show Tony what he's missing. Claire laughed a little before frowning. I don't want him to go. You were supposed to help me keep him here. Sorry. I know how he can be when he gets like this. Rose, why do you want to move in so badly? What's going on? I'm not sure. I just really like that place. I'd love to live there even if it's just until you're back. Claire started to cry a little and jumped up. knocking things around, and hurried off with the dogs trying to catch up. Rose looked at me for a second, enough to say, "Idiot." With that, she hurried after Claire. I was getting frustrated. The whole thing felt crazy. I tried to help a friend, and now it was causing more problems. I didn't see much of Claire in the next few days. In a way, that was for the best. But then the next day, Rose came by unexpected. I saw her drive up and walked outside. "What brings you here?" "I hoped we could talk." "Okay. Maybe we can take a walk?" I pointed up the hill and we walked side by side. "Eddie, do you have feelings for Claire?" "That's not really your concern." "She's my friend and I care about her too. Maybe you don't see how much she cares for you. She has strong feelings." "I have feelings too, you know." "If that's true, why are you thinking about leaving? If you do, it will hurt her." "I'm tired of talking about this. I need a job to finish the house." "That's not true. I offered to help you with money, and so did Claire. You don't have to leave." "I see things differently. I want to make my own way in the world." "Eddie, you need to realize that if you see a future with Claire, she will always have more money than you. You need to put aside your pride and accept help if you're together." I shook my head and bit my lip to hold back my response. "Eddie, if Claire needed help, would you give it to her?" "Yes, of course." "Then what's the difference? Why can't we help you?" "Because I'm the man. That's my job." She stopped suddenly in front of me and we bumped into each other. She swayed a little and I had to steady her. "Sorry," she said quietly. We stood there looking at each other. I could see her feelings in her eyes. She blinked and moved closer, putting her arms around me gently. As she moved closer in slow motion, her eyes closed, leaning forward until our faces were just inches apart. I felt her rest against me, and though I hadn't intended this, I found myself tilting my head, and soon, our lips met in a gentle, unexpected kiss. Her arms wrapped around me, and I returned the embrace. The warmth and familiarity between us surged, and for a moment, it felt like we'd known each other this way forever. But then she hesitated, pressing her hands against my chest to create space. "Eddie, we shouldn't do this." "I can't," she whispered. I paused, feeling a mix of confusion and regret. "You kissed me, Rose." She looked down, breaking our eye contact. "I know, but it's not right. Claire is my friend, and you just told me how you feel about her." "Yeah, it's complicated. I'm sorry. I care about you both," I admitted. As we walked back to the house in silence, Rose spoke again, sounding uncertain. "Please, Eddie, don't leave Claire. She's already gone through so much. I don't want her to face another heartbreak." "So what am I supposed to do?" "Let me help you finish the house," she offered. "Claire doesn't have to know it's from me. Tell her you found a way or something." I shook my head. She saw I'd made up my mind, and when we reached the house, she left without another word. That night, lying in bed, I tried to clear my mind. The wind outside rocked the van gently as I drifted to sleep. At some point, I woke up to the faint taste of brandy. I opened my eyes to see Claire looking at me with a soft expression, her long hair framing her face. She leaned in close, her hand resting on mine. "Eddie," she whispered, "I'm sorry for being so complicated." I felt her warmth as she settled beside me, and we stayed like that, close and quiet, letting the night bring a sense of calm and understanding between us. I could only hold on tightly. My hands gripped her shoulders as she moved around. She seemed to enjoy the moment, and I could feel her warmth. She slid closer, and a gentle shiver ran through her. Every movement made my heart race more. It felt like I was on the edge of something great. I wanted to pull her closer, to be even more connected. She just smiled and kept teasing, moving slowly back and forth. It was a mix of excitement and playfulness, and I was caught in the moment. If she had asked me for anything at that moment, I would have given it all. If she wanted my home, I would have offered it. I just wanted to be close to her. I wanted to say please, but I found it hard to get the words out. Her smile was captivating, and her laughter filled the air. As the moment grew more intense, she moved faster, her energy rising. I felt the electric connection between us. Then, in a swift move, she was closer than ever, and it felt incredible. We were intertwined, sharing something special. It was a feeling like no other. As we both experienced a wave of emotions, I felt overwhelmed by the moment. She encouraged me to be part of it entirely. Though she moved at her own pace, I could sense we were nearing a peak together. Finally, she let out a joyful sound that echoed in the night. It was like a release, a shared moment of bliss. I felt warmth and joy, and it was almost beyond what I had felt before. Afterward, we lay next to each other, catching our breath. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she said, "Eddie, I love you so much, but I want you to follow your dreams. If you want to explore, I want you to go." "Really? You will wait for me?" I asked. "Yes, I will wait. It will be tough, and I'll be anxious, but yes, I will wait." I kissed her softly. "Thank you. Eddie, understand that when you come back, I hope we can think about living together. This has been wonderful, but it can't stay like this forever. We need a home, and I have a nice one. What about my place? When I come back, I want to finish it. Why can't we live here?" This shows how closed your mind is right now. You don't seem open to living with me, which makes me think you're not really dedicated to us. "Claire, that's not fair. I care about you. But we need to be honest about decisions. You say I'm closed-minded, but I think you are too." She cuddled up next to me and we soon fell asleep. Things moved fast after that. I quickly signed the contract. They gave me a month to get things settled. Claire decided to throw a dinner party to celebrate. It was just going to be at her place with Rose and me. Whenever Claire hosts a party, she goes all out. She hired a caterer and it was going to be a formal event. I was told to wear a suit and tie. Living in the caravan, I didn't have much storage space. My suit was buried in some boxes at the back of the shed. It took me forever to find it, and it was wrinkled and smelled bad. Washing it wouldn't help, so I took it to the dry cleaners. I had a lot to do, and by the time I picked it up, I was already late. Back at the caravan, I changed quickly. It looked silly, but it was all I had. No time for a backup plan. I arrived and knocked on the door. A butler let me in. Wow, she really went all out. Claire and Rose were in the lounge, chatting softly with glasses in hand. I took a moment to admire them. Claire was tall and elegant in a red gown that fit her perfectly. It shimmered in the light, and her long hair was styled beautifully. Her eyes sparkled with silver and blue makeup that highlighted their shape. Rose was strong and athletic, shorter than Claire but equally stunning. Her figure was curvy, and her auburn hair shone brightly. Rose had a warm smile that made you feel at ease. Tonight her smile was bright and inviting. As I approached, they both welcomed me. Claire leaned in and gave me a light kiss on the lips, careful of her makeup. Rose leaned in too, her kiss lingering a little longer. "Wow, all this just for us." Claire looked at me. "Yes, dear. If you have to leave, we should celebrate." Rose sighed. "I still think you're making a mistake, but what do I know?" Claire pressed a button, and soft music filled the room. "So, are you going to rent me that house?" Rose asked. "No, I'm sorry. You'll need to find your own place." "Really, you can be so stubborn. You're just going to close it up and let it get old, and who knows what pests might move in there." Claire said, "She has a point. Mice can get in anywhere." "It's not a big deal. Gordy will keep an eye on it. He'll open it up and let some air in now and then. It could be earning you money." "Rose, I don't want anyone else living there. I want to be the first to move in when it's fresh and new. I don't want it to feel used. Come on, I'm not a stranger. Think about it. 12 months at 1,600 pounds a month. That would really help you out." "Sorry, Rose." She looked a bit moody as Claire asked me how my day was. It felt strange being there with these two lively women all dressed up for a night out. We began chatting, and Claire shared stories about her trip to Abu Dhabi and why she didn't like it. We laughed as she told us about her experiences. The dinner was amazing. 7 courses. Too much food, for sure. After a few drinks, we moved to the lounge. We were talking when Claire started moving to the music. She set her drink down and leaned in close, saying softly, "Dance with me, Eddie." She stepped into my arms, her body fitting against mine. As we danced to the slow song, I felt her movements closely. I let my hands rest on her back gently. Just then, I noticed Rose standing alone. She seemed a little left out, and it didn't feel fair. Claire and I were having fun, but I saw the longing on Rose's face. She looked a bit sad, her cheeks flushed and eyes shiny. I lifted Claire so our eyes met. "My love, we have a guest who needs us." She looked over at Rose and frowned. Oh, I'm so thoughtless. Yes, let's go. We walked over to Rose, and Claire took my hand as we approached. She whispered, "Darling, dance with Rose while I check on the kitchen." Claire gently nudged me into Rose's arms, and with that, we fell together. Rose set her drink down and melted into my embrace. It felt right, like we had a shared past. We danced for a bit, but soon we were swaying quietly to the music, her warmth pressed against me. As we swayed to the music, Rose rested her head on my shoulder, her arms around my neck. Her gentle movements matched mine as we glided together. I kept my hands on her back, holding her close, enjoying the quiet simplicity of the moment. Then, I caught a glimpse of Claire watching us from across the room. I couldn't tell if she was upset or amused, so I leaned down to Rose's ear and softly said, "Maybe we should take a break." Rose looked up, catching sight of Claire as well. "Oh, I didn't mean to make things awkward," she murmured. We walked back over to Claire, who greeted us with a warm smile. "You two looked great out there," she said, giving Rose a friendly kiss on the cheek. "You're a beautiful dancer." Rose laughed, slightly embarrassed. "Thanks, Claire. You looked amazing, too." Claire leaned in closer, her smile playful. "It's not fair, though, is it?" she said, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Rose and I looked at each other, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Rose asked. "Well, Eddie seems to be having all the fun," Claire replied with a chuckle. "I'll admit I felt a bit left out watching you two." Rose's eyes widened. "Oh, I didn't mean to make you feel that way, Claire." Claire waved a hand, laughing. "Oh, it's nothing like that, love. Actually, I thought I might get a turn too," she winked, glancing between us. "How about we dance, Rose?" Rose seemed taken aback but smiled, glancing at me and then back at Claire. "I'd like that." I watched as Claire guided Rose onto the dance floor. At first, Rose seemed unsure, but Claire took the lead confidently, making her feel comfortable. They swayed in time to the music, moving gracefully and effortlessly. Rose closed her eyes, letting herself enjoy the moment, and wrapped her arms around Claire's shoulders. They both seemed lost in the dance, and I couldn't help but smile, happy to see them both so carefree and enjoying each other's company. The soft glow of the lights made their dresses shimmer as they moved, their laughter blending with the music, making it a warm, joyful scene I wouldn't soon forget. Amid the lively music, I could hear Rose's pleased sighs and her soft voice. Rose lifted her head from Claire's chest, and for a moment I thought she might say stop. Instead, her lips parted, and they shared a kiss. It was surprising. They kissed like lovers, with intensity and passion. Their mouths were open, and it seemed like they were caught up in a lively dance. Rose moved against Claire, and they were close together. Claire's hands were on Rose's back, pulling her in closer. It was so unexpected, and I was left speechless, feeling my heart race. I couldn't help but want to see more. I discreetly reached into my pocket to calm myself. Their faces were flushed, lipstick smudged from their kiss. When Claire shifted her leg to press against Rose, it seemed to wake her up. Rose stepped back slightly and looked around to see if I was watching. When our eyes met, Rose gasped, realization washing over her. Claire also turned to look at me. She took Rose's hand and led her closer to where I stood. I felt breathless, my heart beating heavily. They looked disheveled, but I found them beautiful. As they approached, Claire let go of Rose's hand and wrapped her arms around my neck. Her kiss was bold and intense, holding me tight and making it hard to think clearly. Rose seemed just as caught up, standing frozen. When Claire turned to kiss her again, Rose remained still, responding with equal intensity. Claire placed her hand on my waist, pulling us closer. I could feel Rose's quick breaths as she tried to catch her breath. After another kiss, Rose's eyes were still on mine. Once they were done, Claire kissed me, then guided us together so that Rose and I kissed too. It felt strange, but with Rose kissing me back, I didn't want to stop. We broke apart, all of us breathing heavily. Finally, Claire spoke. "Rose, I love you." Rose gave a small nod. "Yes, I love you too. You're my best friend." Claire placed a gentle kiss on her lips. "Do you still love Eddie?" Rose nodded again. "Yes," she said, about to add more, but Claire kissed her once more to interrupt. Then Claire turned to me. "Eddie, I know you still care for Rose. I see it in the little things every day. I feel it too, Rose murmured. I nodded, feeling unsure of what to say. Claire smiled, glancing at both of us. We could walk down the hall, she suggested softly. I have a very big bed. The suggestion hung in the air, and I could feel the anticipation. Taking a breath, I replied, I'd like that. The words slipped out before I could stop them. All eyes turned to Rose, who hesitated. I've never been close with a woman before. Claire reached over, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. Did you enjoy our kiss earlier? Rose's cheeks flushed as she admitted, Yes, very much. Then maybe you'd like to try something new, Claire whispered. After a pause, Rose nodded. Yes. Claire, holding both our hands, guided us down the hallway. The room we entered held a bed large enough for all of us to sit comfortably. She gave me a nudge, and I sat on the edge, slipping off my shoes and getting comfortable. When I looked up, Claire and Rose were standing close, their hands intertwined. They shared a soft, warm smile, seeming to forget I was even in the room as they enjoyed the moment together. The atmosphere was calm and accepting, a gentle closeness that filled the room. We stayed like that for a while, just talking, laughing, and being together, letting the evening draw us closer as friends and sharing a deep, unspoken understanding. It was a night of warmth and companionship that left us feeling peaceful and connected. Rose sighed, closing her eyes with a soft smile as she leaned back, enjoying the quiet comfort of the moment. Claire leaned over, gently brushing a strand of hair away from Rose's face, and whispered, Why don't we get a bit more comfortable? I took a step back, quickly tugging off my jacket, eager to relax and join them. Claire and Rose were lost in a warm embrace, sharing a moment of deep affection. I felt my heart swell, a mix of emotions rushing over me, admiration, joy, and the thrill of closeness. As I watched, Claire leaned closer to Rose, softly guiding her movements, her hand resting gently on Rose's shoulder as she whispered, Let's settle in. They both moved with an ease that spoke of trust and understanding. The atmosphere was calm, yet filled with an undeniable warmth that seemed to fill the room. They looked at me, eyes bright with kindness, and Claire smiled, gesturing toward the bed. Come join us, she said gently. Rose met my gaze, her expression open and welcoming, and I felt a deep sense of connection. The three of us gathered close, sharing stories, quiet laughter, and a warmth that wrapped around us like a blanket. We talked, savoring each other's presence, basking in the simple joy of shared company. Time seemed to pause as we drifted into a quiet, peaceful state together, all of us content to simply be in each other's presence, bound by a gentle, lasting affection. I'm sorry, Claire. Oh my gosh. Her body shook with excitement, and she looked so happy as she exclaimed, Oh, wow. I was completely caught up in the moment. I moved quickly with Claire, and as Rose cried out, Ah, wow, I'm so happy, I felt Claire's response. Rose gently moved away from Claire, who then shifted closer and looked into Rose's eyes. They rolled over together, and Claire kissed Rose, their joy shared through the touch of their faces. Rose sighed. Wow, Claire. I have never felt that way before. Incredible. Claire smiled and kissed her back. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Knowing Claire well, I realized she hadn't reached that level of happiness yet. With a playful grin, I moved forward to tease her, making her lay back. She gasped, What are you doing? Although I had done this a few times before, and it wasn't usually my thing, I dove in with energy. It was overwhelming as I tasted the moment. I remembered what I had just seen and began to explore. I nuzzled and teased, and when I added a little touch, she came to life. Her body reacted, and she seemed to melt with joy. As I noticed their smiling faces and that they were kissing again, it gave me even more energy. I focused on helping Claire with more joy. Her excitement grew, and I could feel her movements. Their gentle laughter filled the room. Claire kissed me with intensity, saying, You're such a silly person. With a playful laugh, Rose added, He always has been. That night, we explored all the ways three people can share a moment, without anything too wild. I watched with delight as Rose experienced something new and wonderful. She enjoyed it like someone who had been waiting for this for a long time. I watched as they shared their happiness together. It was a special sight to see Claire taking Rose to places I had never seen before, but after all that joy, things felt a bit strange the very next day. Claire slept in, but when I woke up, Rose was missing. I found her outside, looking a bit lost. I approached her and wrapped my arms around her shoulders. "Hey, what's going on?" She jumped a little, glancing up at me with tears in her eyes. "You must think poorly of me. I shouldn't have gotten involved like that. Claire is your partner, and I need to learn to step back." "What are you saying?" "About last night, with Claire and me." "Oh no, what have I done?" I held her close. "It's okay, don't worry. If you felt uncomfortable, I'm really sorry. I thought you were okay with it." She wiped her nose. "What? No, I didn't feel like that at all. Why would you think that?" I gently kissed her cheek. "I'm sorry. I'm just confused. I thought you might have disliked it." "No, I meant, oh gosh, I don't know what I mean. Do you dislike me?" "Of course not, how could I?" "You were watching Claire and me. I could see how you looked." I laughed softly and kissed her shoulder. "What you saw was surprise. I admit I was surprised to see you like that, but it wasn't disgust, just amazement. I've never seen you so full of life before. Honestly, Rose, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So you're not upset?" "Oh no, I'm excited and happy, but not upset. But she's your partner now, and I don't know how or why last night happened, but I'm really glad it did. Can we still be friends?" "I hope so. What do you think Claire will say?" "I think she will be pleased. She sounded that way last night. I didn't know she liked women." Rose tried to hold back a laugh. "I did. We've talked about it a lot. It goes back to her modeling days. You wouldn't believe some of the famous people she has been with." "Wow, I had no idea. I guess I was naive. She told me she hasn't been with a woman for a while. It's something she set aside. Well, that door is wide open now. What does this mean for us, for you?" "I really don't know. I promise I don't dislike you. I think you're very brave and wonderful." Claire walked in behind me. "She is definitely wonderful." We both turned to her. I still had my arms around Rose, which made me feel a bit guilty. Claire eased that feeling by leaning down and hugging us both. "This must be a surprise for you both. I remember my first time, and I felt all sorts of things like you do now." Rose seemed confused. "Claire, I don't know what to say." "Sweetheart, there's nothing to say. I know you still have feelings for Eddie, and I know how much he cares about you." Rose, still puzzled, said, "I'm confused. Really confused. I don't know what to say. Please listen to me. I care about you deeply. You have become more than just a friend to me. I wanted to share this with you. I could see the connection between you and Eddie, and I wanted to help you both get back together." "Wait a minute," I said with surprise. "What are you saying? Don't you want to be with me anymore?" She gave me a motherly look. "No, silly, I care about you. I hope nothing has changed for us. It hasn't for me." "Then what does this mean?" "I wanted you and Rose to realize that you can share closeness without being married." She hugged Rose tightly. "Sweetheart, I've wanted this for a long time. I realized a while ago that my feelings for you have changed. The love I have for you is more than just friendship. Should we all have some breakfast? We can talk a bit more. This doesn't have to change anything." "How can you say that?" I replied with disbelief. "Let's eat, and oh, by the way, you're cooking." I started preparing breakfast. The kitchen was amazing with every appliance you could think of. I decided to make scrambled eggs with bacon, mushrooms, fried tomatoes, and toast. I looked over at Rose and Claire sitting close together, Claire's arm around Rose's shoulder. Their faces were close as they chatted quietly at the table. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could guess. I noticed how Rose's expression shifted from surprise to happiness, then to a bit of guilt. They shared a soft moment before Claire came to help me bring out the food. We ate in silence, exchanging glances as we each tried to express how we felt. I was still at a loss for words. My emotions were all over the place. It was like a dream come true, but I was also filled with uncertainty about what would come next. Claire smiled gently at me. "Eddie, you look upset. What's wrong?" I shrugged. "I'm conflicted. You said earlier that you wanted Rose and me to reconnect. Is that really what you want? With a sigh, she looked back and forth between Rose and me. Eddie, I'll be honest. Forgive me for being direct. Nothing has changed for me. I hope you will go away, find your success, and come back a renewed man, someone who wants to be part of my life, someone who wants me in his. I do love you, and I want that more than ever. So what about what you said about Rose and me? I noticed the tension between you two, the awkwardness. I just wanted you to have a chance to rebuild your relationship, a caring, loving one. Okay, but what do we do now? Whatever you choose. I hope it won't change how you feel about me. Things felt a bit tense after that. Rose helped me with the dishes, which was something we used to do together when we were married, filled with laughter. But now, it was hard for us to talk. Claire received a concerning phone call and stepped outside for privacy. While she was gone, Rose said, "I think I need to go. I could use some space." We shared a hug, and it reminded me of the memories from the night before. I finished cleaning just as Claire returned. Her first question was, "Where's Rose?" She decided to leave. I think she was feeling a bit lost. She nodded sadly, came closer, and wrapped her arms around my neck. "Will we be okay?" "Yes, of course, I'm just confused. What happens the next time Rose visits?" "Whatever feels right for all of us. Eddie, there are many ways we can move forward besides just living together in a traditional relationship. We could consider adding Rose." "How? I just don't see how that would work." "Let's think about what's coming next. Can we do that?" I nodded. "Sure. All right, dear. You're going to take off into the sunset in your shiny plane. Rose and I will be left here together. Is that fair?" I couldn't think of anything to say. I almost spoke, but she interrupted. "Would it bother you if Rose and I spent some nights together?" That thought hit me hard like a sudden surprise. I carefully replied, "You mean like, what does some nights mean?" I was going to ask if she wanted to move in with us. It would save her money and give me some company. Now I can't just stroll down the road for a chat. You're taking that away from me. "Hun, if you don't want me to go, just say it, and it'll stop everything." "No," she said sharply. "I want you to go. I know how important this is for you. I want you to go and do great things. Come back proud and successful." I nodded a little. "When you say move in, do you mean share a bed or separate rooms?" "Oh dear, is my darling feeling jealous? I meant separate rooms. I don't want to live with her that way. Some nights means just whenever we feel like it. Eddie, I care about Rose, but I don't want us to be anything more than friends." I was confused and didn't know what to think. "Claire, you're both adults. I just want you to be happy." "Did you talk to Rose about this?" "Yes, I asked her this morning." "And?" "She's interested but hesitant. I get it, she's unsure. It's new for her, especially with her ex involved. I understand, but she did seem curious." "What's meant to happen will happen, I guess," I decided. She smiled. "That's a very thoughtful way to look at it." She moved into my arms and we shared a warm hug. The next day, Rose arrived while I was preparing dinner. I peeked out of the caravan window and saw her get out of her little car. She peeked her head in the door. "Hi, Eddie, are you busy?" "No, come on in. You'll make some tea." "Coffee for me, please," she said. I made the drinks and we settled on the bed. Sipping her coffee, she slowly asked, "Has Claire talked to you about her offer?" "Yeah, we discussed it." "What do you think of it?" "Well, I was surprised, but after the other night, I guess I shouldn't be," she chuckled. "Yeah, that night was something, wasn't it?" I nodded. "The real question is, did you like it?" With a shy smile, she said, "Can we be honest?" I nodded. I wouldn't expect anything less. "Okay then, I loved it. I loved it for so many reasons. I've thought a lot about why it felt so special." Her cheeks grew redder. "Does that surprise you?" "I've thought about it quite a bit too." "No, it was wonderful." Her voice became softer, and I could hear the playful tone I remembered. "Eddie, I loved it mainly because you were there with me. I've missed you so much. I never wanted us to be apart. I loved having you close. It was beautiful." I nodded while she took a sip of her coffee. Between her sips, she continued, "The second part is a bit tricky for me to say. I feel a strong bond with Claire. It's not love like most people think. but she has become such an important part of my life. When I didn't respond right away, she spoke again. I have often wondered what it would feel like to be close with a woman. Being with someone like Claire, who is so lovely and charming, it felt right, especially because of how I felt. Yeah, I can see how close you two have gotten. I'm sorry for being a bit gloomy this morning. I was just confused. I wanted to tell you how great the night was, but I didn't want you to think I was trying to complicate things with her. Yeah, it's definitely strange. I wanted to say thank you for a wonderful night, but I didn't know how to express that. No, dear, I understand. Our marriage is over. You're with Claire now. I'm not trying to get in the way. Her words stung. They were true, but hearing them made it all feel more real. She felt it too. I could see it on her face, in her wet eyes. We sat quietly, sipping our drinks, in a peaceful moment that surrounded us. So, have you thought about Claire's suggestion? I asked. She nodded. Yes, that's why I'm here. I want to go ahead with it. It makes sense financially. But before I decide, I wanted your approval. I don't want you to think I'm trying to take over. If you're not comfortable with this, please tell me. No, I think it's a good idea. She smiled playfully. You're okay with me being with your girlfriend? It's not like that, I chuckled. She laughed. Oh dear, there's so much we both have to learn. But trust me, there will be a connection. She gave me a quick kiss, and then went to speak to Claire. I was curious about what would happen next, but I didn't want to intrude. In situations like this, I often felt nervous about calling Claire. I decided to take a walk to Gordy's place. He welcomed me with some homemade drinks, and we relaxed in his living room, chatting about taking care of my house while I was away. We hadn't talked much since I started seeing Claire. We had tried to keep things low-key, but once his wife was gone, he said, So, you and Claire, huh? You got everyone talking. Who told you? You have to be joking. It's the biggest topic around here. Everyone's talking about it. You're a bit of a celebrity now, you know, lad, Gordy said, grinning. I felt a bit of embarrassment, but laughed along. It's strange to think of it like that. Don't be modest. We're just glad Tony's out of the picture. Bit of a troublemaker, that one. Always trying to climb up the social ladder. No, we all reckon Claire's much better off. I replied. They didn't split up because of me, you know. I didn't even see Claire until after they broke up. I'm not like that. He nodded reassuringly. There were some rumors, but I set people straight. I know you. Thanks, mate. He gave me a knowing look. But if things are serious between you two, why are you off to build sandcastles in the desert? I laughed. Honestly, I need the money. The offer was too good to pass up. He leaned in and we clinked our glasses. He whispered as if it were a secret. Well, good luck, lad. Claire's a lovely woman. A little embarrassed but braver from the drinks, I just said, she's great. Gordy laughed. You're in for a challenge, aren't you? Later, as I made my way home after far too many of his homemade brews, my phone rang. Hey, what are you up to? I answered. Just heading home from Gordy's. Why? There was laughter on the other end. Well, Rose and I just had a nice soak in the hot tub and were thinking of moving things inside. We thought you might want to join us, Claire said with a smile in her voice. Did I? Absolutely. I'm on my way, I said, chuckling. Hurry, love, Rose chimed in. I managed to get home a little later, feeling clumsy from the drinks. When I finally reached the bedroom, I saw them sitting together, relaxed and happy. They looked so carefree, laughing and enjoying each other's company. They didn't even notice me at first. Watching them just for a moment while I caught my breath was oddly heartwarming. Eventually, Rose spotted me. Well, about time you got here, she teased. Claire turned, laughing. Don't just stand there watching, she said, rolling her eyes playfully. I shrugged. I'm happy just being here, I replied. Glad to hear it, she said with a smile, pulling Rose close. They went back to chatting and laughing, and I joined them, settling in as we spent the rest of the evening just enjoying each other's company. Their legs were close to each other, and their hands moved gently over one another, comforting and exploring. They shared soft kisses as their breathing quickened. It was clear that Claire was feeling very excited, as she leaned closer to Rose. The sounds of their movements filled the air in an intense way. With a loud cry, Claire reached a peak of happiness, Though she seemed finished, Rose continued to move with great energy. I recognized that expression on Rose's face. Her eyes were closed, and she moved passionately. Watching them, I felt a bit out of place. What could I add to such a moment? As they relaxed, they invited me to join in. With two beautiful women beside me, they took turns showing me affection. They kissed around me gently and sweetly. Then Rose gently pushed me back and moved closer. Claire helped guide us together, joining in as she leaned forward gracefully. Not wanting to be left out, Claire turned and joined in too. Facing Rose, she connected with me warmly, making the moment more intense. They moved in sync, filling the space with laughter and warmth. I was surrounded by love and joy, feeling completely at peace. After that, we rested together, sharing gentle kisses and deep comfort, enjoying the moment late into the night. Time flew by, and soon I was preparing for my flight to the Emirates. I felt amazing as I reached the gate, embraced by two wonderful women who were sad to see me go. A few people around noticed, which made me feel proud. I was about to start an exciting journey. I felt a mix of emotions, especially sadness at leaving Claire and Rose behind. It was hard to think of separating from them. When I stepped outside the airport, the heat hit me hard, and I quickly began to sweat. Thankfully, a representative from the company arranged for a cab to take me to the hotel. I was there for a project to build a new pier station, and there was a camp set up nearby for accommodation. They showed me to my room, which was cozy and had everything I needed. I kept in touch with the girls often. We even managed to talk intimately a few times, though it was tricky while they were together. After the first month, when my salary was deposited, I began to think about what the future held. If I just saved my salary, I would have about £100,000 when my time here was done. That's a lot of money. But after chatting with some other engineers, I realized I could make even more. Many of them put their money into stocks and other investments. The engineers I spoke to had experience with this kind of work. They all suggested that to make the most of this chance, I should invest all my money. It made sense. The project took care of all our living costs. They provided food, a place to stay, and even clothes. I could save every single pound I earned. A few of the guys showed me how to invest over drinks at our camp. I watched them trade shares, buying and selling. They knew exactly what they were doing. I was really nervous. They were right. This was a great opportunity, but it was also a big risk. I could lose everything and waste a whole year. As I thought about my options, I remembered my talks with Rose. She was experienced with this, and I should ask her for help. Maybe there were simpler ways I could try. It was time to have a conversation. "Hey, Rose, are you busy?" "No, just finished my bath. Why?" "I need a favor." "Sure, what is it?" "I was hoping you could suggest a few trading websites. I'm thinking about giving it a shot." There was a brief silence before I explained what I was considering. "Okay, Eddie, you'll be honest. No matter what website you use, it will take time. If you're not ready to spend a lot of time on this, you could easily mess up." "Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Let me suggest something. How about I manage it for you?" "What do you mean?" "Put your money into an account and let me handle everything. Eddie, I know you're hesitant, but you can trust me. It's not that I don't trust you. I'm just anxious. How about this? Put half of your money into an account and let me take care of it. If I can't double it in a few months, you can pull it out." "Double it?" I said, surprised. "Yes, double. It will be challenging, but I want to help you. We can set up the account in your name so you can check it any time. You won't be able to change anything, just look." "You really think you can do that?" "Yes." That's how Rose became my investment manager. It quickly became clear that she could earn more than I had ever expected. After a couple of weeks, I decided to put all my money in. I only kept a little for myself. Then, a little later, I got a call. "Eddie, did you get a raise or something?" "No, Rose, but I see that you're good at this, and I figured why not go all in?" There was a brief pause before she replied. "You won't regret it. I promise to make it work." "Thanks. I appreciate it. How are things going there? Are you and Claire still getting along?" She paused for a moment. "Yeah, everything is fine." Her voice sounded a bit shaky. "Is something bothering you, Rose?" "No, it's just strange discussing this with you. You might not get it, but it feels a bit uncomfortable sharing details about my life with your ex-husband." I chuckled for a few seconds before responding. Oh, don't worry. I feel the same way. If you had asked me a year ago how I would feel discussing your personal life, I would have laughed. So, how is Claire? She's doing well, busy as always. She's focusing a lot more on her charities now. She's even got me helping her with some tasks. What kind of tasks? Finding a new leader for her foundation. Oh, really? How is that going? I think I found the right person. I reached out and he is interested. Claire and I are having dinner with him on Friday. Good luck. Work was hectic. The pay was decent, but they really worked us hard. The hours were long and exhausting, especially at the job site. The heat was intense, and the place was vast. My main task was managing the water treatment plant and the cooling systems. We were a little behind schedule, which meant a big push was needed. For the next week, Claire and I hardly spoke. Before that, we talked every night. I finally found a moment to call her on Sunday night. "Hello, darling," she said warmly. "How are you?" "I'm doing all right. Sorry for not calling." "It's all right, my love. I know how busy you've been." "Still, I should have called. What's new? Is Rose still there?" "Yes, Rose is still here. Things have been hectic." "Oh, right. How's the search for the new leader going?" She laughed a little and said, "It's going very well. We have met several times. I think he is a great fit. Rose thinks so too." "When does he start?" "We're still in talks. He's coming over for dinner tonight." "Is he good looking?" I asked jokingly. "Oh, darling, you have no idea. I'm trying to set him up with Rose. He's wonderful." "Oh no, you're playing matchmaker again. Claire, you know she doesn't like that." "Not this time, my love. I can tell she's interested." "Well, good luck. But remember, I said so." A couple of days passed before I had a chance to call again. Claire didn't pick up, but Rose did. I jumped right in. "How's the new guy?" "Please stop. He isn't interested in me at all. He's nice, but that's it." "Oh, sorry to hear that. Is he involved with someone?" "No, but he's quite taken with your girlfriend." That surprised me, but I tried to stay calm. "Can't blame him, I guess. He'll have to count on you to keep her happy." I think that joke might have crossed the line because she responded sharply. "Excuse me?" "Sorry, I was just joking." "Well, it's not funny and I don't appreciate it." That pretty much ended our chat. I called Claire on her phone. She didn't pick up right away. It took a few rings before she answered. "Hello, Eddie. How are things going?" "Good. What about you? How has your day been?" "Oh, I had a wonderful day. We convinced Howard to take the CEO position." "That's great. Where are you? I tried calling your home." "I'm out celebrating with Howard. I tried to get Rose to join us, but she wasn't interested." "Silly girl. How is your matchmaking going?" "Not so well. Rose hasn't been very helpful." "Told you so." "Yes, I remember." "So how are you and Howard getting along?" "Very well. He is quite charming. I really wish Rose would see him the way I do." "And how is that?" I think she realized she might have said too much. Her pause spoke volumes. "He's very charismatic. He'll be great for the charity." "Is he handsome?" "Yes, he is. I wouldn't have tried to interest Rose if he weren't." "Do you find him attractive?" "Yes, I do. Look, we're out right now. Could I call you when I get back home?" "That depends on when you get home. I have an important day tomorrow and I don't want a late night. It's already late here. Maybe we can talk tomorrow?" "Of course. I'm sorry we haven't talked much lately. I've been caught up with everything." "It's okay, Claire. We can chat tomorrow." After hanging up, I wondered why I wasn't upset. If it had been Rose out with Howard, I think I would have felt different. The next morning I saw a text from Rose. "Sorry for being short with you. It's not your fault." It was 5:30 a.m. my time, about 2 a.m. for her. I chose not to wake her. The day flew by as usual. We had our typical challenges. Most of the engineers on the project were from other countries. Many were expats, especially from India. They were good engineers, but the language barrier made things tough. That added to my stress. A couple of days went by before I spoke to both of them again. The conversation felt strange. I sensed an unusual vibe. I wasn't sure if it was them or me. The next day I called again, and this time I got Rose. She sounded tense. "Hi, Eddie. Hi, Rose. Is Claire there?" There was that same hesitation from our recent calls. "No, she's out." "Oh, where did she go?" "Eddie, I don't want to discuss this. She's out, okay?" "What's going on?" I said I don't want to talk about it. When do you expect her back? I'm not sure. She'll probably be late again. Who is she with? Eddie, I'm not discussing this with you. Rose, you're making me worried. Eddie, just call her and talk it out, okay? Yeah, thanks for nothing. It's not fair to put me in the middle. Please just speak to her. I called her right away. It rang and rang until it went to voicemail. I tried again, and this time she answered. Hello, darling. How are you? I'm okay. I just called home looking for you and had a strange talk with Rose. Is everything all right with you two? Not really. She's a bit upset, but we can work it out. How have you been? I'm fine. Where are you? I'm out with friends. Friends? Anyone I know? No, Eddie, nobody you'd recognize. Claire, I don't want to sound suspicious, but Rose wouldn't tell me where you were or who you were with. She seemed upset. Oh dear, that's not good. I'll talk to her when I get home. So who are you with? There was a long pause. I'm with Howard, the new CEO. You said you were with friends. Who else is with you? Sorry for the confusion. It's just Howard and me. Could you call me when you get home so we can talk privately? Sure, but it might be late. Claire, should I be worried about this? I'm confused about what's happening. I promise I'll call you as soon as I get back. She hung up, and I put the phone down, letting out a long sigh. Rose's attitude made it clear how she felt about the situation. Is Claire getting too close to this guy? I waited for what felt like forever. Finally, the phone rang, and I saw it was 2 in the morning. Hello, Eddie. Sorry it's so late. I hope I didn't wake you. No, I've been waiting for your call. I didn't expect it would be this late. I'm sorry, darling. Howard and I lost track of time. He's a nice guy. Let's cut to the chase. Is there something going on between you two? I heard her sigh. If you're asking if we're involved romantically, the answer is no. We've just had dinner a few times, that's all. Then why is Rose so upset? She thinks him being unfaithful. She doesn't like that him spending time with Howard. Claire, I don't mind if you go out for dinner or whatever, but all I ask is for honesty if it's something more. Eddie, I'm a little hurt that you would think that of me. It feels offensive. I'm sorry you feel that way, but what else was I to think? I understand, but really you need to trust me. Just one question. Are you interested in him? That long pause returned. I guess you could say I find Howard fun. We're the same age, have similar interests, and he's quite charming. I enjoy spending time with him. Does that mean I should feel bad? Don't say that, Eddie. Nothing wrong has happened. We are just friends. I thought you wanted him to be with Rose, she sighed. I tried to make that happen, but she didn't seem interested. We went out together a few times, but she just didn't connect with Howard. So you decided to be close to him yourself? We're not dating. We're just two friends who are working together. We have some things in common. That's it. Now stop acting jealous. It's frustrating. Frustrating? How do you think I feel? My girlfriend is out every night with another guy. Edwin, if you keep making these silly accusations, I will hang up. I haven't done anything wrong. Hang up. I wouldn't give her that. I ended the call and turned off my phone. That night I didn't sleep much. My mind was full of feelings, anger, jealousy, confusion. What could I do from so far away? I couldn't just go confront him. The alarm ringing woke me up to a new day, and it was a busy one. I didn't turn my phone back on until I was eating breakfast. I saw several messages from Claire. None were very nice. She made it clear what she thought of my actions. She called me childish and insecure. It reminded me of my arguments with Rose when I thought she liked Tony. It took a few days for things to calm down. Rose acted as a mediator. Claire admitted, I'm sorry, Eddie. I understand how this must seem from where you are. If you could meet Howard, it would be easier. I apologized for misunderstanding, and Rose told both of us to stop acting childish. I thought that was ironic since she started this whole worry. Still, life went on. Rose and Claire were able to work through their issues, and their friendship was getting stronger. Unfortunately, this was also one of the busiest times for our project. We had to launch the first cooling systems, which meant long, hot days. My routine became work, eat, sleep. Claire, Rose, and I met up a couple of times over the next few weeks, but our conversations were brief and not as warm as they used to be. After the launch was over, I tried to focus on my relationship with Claire. I could tell things had changed a bit. Our talks were friendly, but lacked warmth. There was a distance between us. She was careful about what she shared, only mentioning the changes she was making in the house. Rose was also hard to reach. She was back working full-time for her old job, and to impress everyone, she worked long hours almost as much as I did. It surprised me about a month or so later. Claire called me while I was having dinner. "Eddie, can we talk?" I was done eating, so I got up and walked to my room. "Sure, what's on your mind?" "Eddie, I care about you. After Tony, you really supported me, and he'll always be grateful for that." I didn't like where this was heading. "Go on." "Eddie, I need to be honest with you. I'm not the kind of person who cheats, especially when my partner is away. I promised you I would be truthful. This is no different." "You mean Howard?" I blurted out. "Yes, I'm sorry. We've been spending a lot of time together, and I have developed feelings for him. He wants me to go away for the weekend." "I see. And that trip would be intimate?" "Yes, that's the truth. I'm really sorry, Eddie." "Well, I guess I have to give you credit for being honest." A moment of silence passed before she said, "What do you want me to do?" "I'm not sure I have any say in this." "Don't be silly. If you tell me you love me and want to be together forever, then I will turn him down." "Eddie, I've thought a lot about this. I don't want a hidden love. I prefer to be open." "You're confusing me, Claire. I don't get it." "Eddie, I loved our time together. You're wonderful, but I know I'm older than you. You might have concerns, be honest with me." "Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have worries." "Look, Claire, I'm not sure what to think. One moment you say you're going away with him, and the next you say you love me. What's happening?" "I never said I was going. I said he asked me. If you can tell me right now that you love me and want to be together, then he'll say no to him." "What do you want, Claire? Just tell me." "I want to know where we stand. Is there a we?" "Well, I thought there was. Maybe I was wrong. You have feelings for Howard, and if that's what you want, then just do it." I was getting frustrated with the conversation. "Let's be clear, Eddie. If you can't say you love me and want to be together forever, then we both need to think again." "I do love you, Claire, but I'm not sure what that means. I also have to think about Rose. Where does she fit in?" "Eddie, do you love Rose?" "Yes, of course I do." The words just came out. "Yes, you do, and she loves you. You and Rose should be together. What we had was great, but it was never meant to last. I think her true purpose was to be with him again. Just tell me, Claire, do you want to go with him?" Yes, I do." "Then I guess that's that." "Yes, maybe it is. I will always care for you, Eddie. You saved my life." "I care for you too, Claire. I can't tell what the future will be like. I mean, Howie might not be the best partner." She chuckled and took a moment to breathe. "Yes, he very well might not be." "What then?" I asked. "Well, I will regret letting go of a good relationship." "What about Rose? Does she know?" "No, I haven't told her yet. She's upset with me because I've been spending so much time with Howard. She criticized me for it. Said I was acting wrong and accused me of being with him." "What happens now?" "Well, Eddie, my dear, I hope we can part on good terms. I wouldn't want us to not be friends." "I would like that, Claire. Who knows what the future may bring?" The next day, I got a heated phone call. "Eddie, you can't let her get away with this." "Calm down, Rose. First off, she isn't getting away with anything. She told me what she was doing, and I accepted it. We couldn't even go to a party together, but you let her spend a weekend with that guy." "I thought you said he was nice." "Yes, he is nice, but they're not being honest with you. They're going to be together, can't you see?" "Rose, take it easy. You're going to stress yourself out. I know what's happening. Why are you so upset?" "Because she's not being truthful with you. She's not being unfaithful. Rose, we broke up last night. She's free to make her own choices." "What? She never told me that." "Did you give her a chance to explain?" "No, I didn't. It turned into an argument." "Why?" "Because she's going off with him." "Rose, are you feeling ignored?" "Jealous, maybe." "Yeah, a little." She hesitated. "But why didn't she tell me?" "I think she feels let down. She probably hoped you'd understand her side more." "Eddie, can I move in with you? He'll cover the bills, he'll pay rent. I need to leave this place." I want to be gone when they return. I paused, considering what to say next. What if I found you a hotel or an apartment? The house isn't ready yet. Eddie, please. I'll help finish any work. I just really need to get out of here. Okay then. Go see Gordy. He has the key. I'll call him and explain. He might let you use the caravan if it's still around. Thanks, Eddie. You're a lifesaver. What happens when I get back? If you want, I'll move out. I'm not doing this because I want something for myself. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to point fingers. I just want to keep things comfortable between us. Eddie, I just want to leave before they come back. If you decide you want me gone when you return, then I'll go. And what if I want you to stay? Then I'll be right here waiting for you. What will happen while you're waiting? Are you going to be with someone else? No, come on. If you're saying what I think you are, I'll be here when you come back, ready to welcome you. Rose, I can't help but feel a bit unsure about that. We have a past, you know, Felix and Tony. Eddie, I'm serious. If you want, I'll even buy something silly to show my commitment. I chuckled, surprised by the suggestion. Oh, wow, I'd love to see that. You really don't believe me? No, and I wouldn't want you to. I just want a promise, and I want it to mean something this time. Eddie, I've never broken a promise to you. Really? What about Felix? We were broken up. You left me and told me you saw other people. Okay, maybe I'm rushing things. You can have the key, but I want photos of what you're doing, and you need to ask me first. Remember, I'm in charge here. Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on your money. So think carefully about what you want, buddy. She laughed a little at that. The next few days were tense. Gordy joked about me. You, my friend, are quite the greedy guy. He did meet with Rose and helped her with the caravan and the house. In the following days, Rose and I talked every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times. She sent pictures of the things she bought, even a big bed for the master bedroom. Work was challenging as we raced to finish our project. We put in long hours and faced many problems. It's hard to explain why I didn't feel the pain I expected. I guess Claire and I both knew our relationship was never meant to last. We used the right words, but there was always a feeling that we didn't fit as a couple. She wanted someone who could fit into her life, and my refusal to move in with her may have started the issues between us. Rose was fully focused on getting the house ready to live in. Less than 3 weeks after getting the keys, she moved in and shared photos and even videos of her walking through the house, giving me a tour of my own place. After settling in, she returned to her main goal, making money. I checked the website most nights. Though I couldn't change anything, I could see what she was doing. She was busy buying and selling. Some of the risks she took seemed like bad choices, but they turned out well. I noticed a pattern. As I watched her trades, I understood her thinking. She had a clear plan and stuck to it. Even with her success, Rose seemed a bit down. Hey, Rose, what's wrong? You seem sad lately. I miss Claire. I know she made mistakes, but I still miss her. Why not call her or visit her? Because of what she did to you, silly. Rose, what happened with Claire? Maybe it was for the best. Perhaps we had reached the end. So if I said I wanted to visit, you wouldn't be upset? No, I think it would be good. She was your friend after all. Eddie, we were more than friends. Right, I know, I was just trying to be kind. What should I say? Starting with hello would be nice. What if she's angry with me? Then you'll know for sure. Right now, you're worried over something you don't actually know. I'll think about it. I'm afraid she might be mad at me for telling you about Howard. I would have found out anyway. I trust her when she says nothing happened until after we spoke. 2 days later, I got a call. Hi, dear. I wanted to say thank you. Rose told me you encouraged her to visit. Don't thank me, Claire. She wanted to go. I just supported her. Well, I'm really glad you did. I've missed her a lot. I wanted to call, but she seemed upset with me. But I think we're okay now. We had lunch at Finnegan's. It was nice. That's great to hear. How have you been? Wonderful, dear. Besides missing you and Rose, I've finished redecorating. Tony is out of my life now. I do miss you, dear. Your funny remarks. Can we still be friends? Yes, I'd like that too. The project finished earlier than planned, so some of us were let go early. We collected our bonuses and headed home. In a burst of excitement, I decided to surprise everyone. I had 2 weeks before I was supposed to return to the UK. I took the train back to Birmingham and then a taxi home. As I arrived, I was amazed to see the gardens, trees, and little stone walls by the driveway. It looked wonderful. Rose's car wasn't there, so I unloaded my bags and went inside. If the gardens were a surprise, the inside was stunning. The space was no longer empty. It had furniture, rugs, and the kitchen had top-notch appliances. I walked through the house, peeking into every room. All were empty, except the master bedroom. I left my bags in the master and stepped outside to look around. There wasn't much to see in the backyard, just a couple of trees planted there. Walking around the living area, I looked closer. The fridge was full of fresh food. The TV was huge, and there was a powerful stereo and a DVD player. I sank into one of the big, comfy chairs and put my feet up, trying to gather my thoughts. Rose had sent me pictures of her place, but they didn't show how lovely it really was. She had done such a wonderful job decorating. It felt warm and inviting, just like home. Suddenly, I heard a car pull up outside. I jumped up and hurried to the window. I could see Rose getting out of her car, carrying a few grocery bags as she made her way to the door. As she opened the door, I stepped back, not wanting to startle her. She looked a bit puzzled, probably wondering why the door was open. She set the bags down on the bench and turned towards me. "Hello, Rose," I whispered softly. Her expression shifted from worry to surprise. "Oh my God, Eddie! Hey, Rose, surprise!" She rushed over to me, wrapping her arms around me. I was caught off guard, trying to keep my balance as we connected. I stumbled back into the living room and fell onto the sofa. She sat down next to me, and our eyes met. "What happened? You weren't supposed to be home for weeks. I was going to come and get you. We finished early, so they let us go. Why didn't you call? I wanted to pick you up." "It was a surprise. I was hoping to catch you off guard." She laughed and said, "If my surprise is in the bedroom, it probably needs new batteries after all the use it's had recently." "Sure, that's a likely story." She shot me a playful glare. "Seriously?" I smiled, realizing my joke may have missed the mark. "I was just joking." She nudged me lightly. "Well, it's not funny." Then she asked, almost shyly, "So, what do you think of the place?" "It looks amazing. You've done a great job." "Thank goodness you like it. I've been so nervous you wouldn't. The landscaping out front looks really nice. I didn't know you were into gardening." "Cheeky," she replied, grinning. "Beth helped me. She's actually really nice once you get to know her. She gave me most of the plants since she runs her own nursery." "Yeah, I know her. She's lovely. I don't know what you did, but she thinks you're wonderful. You must have really impressed her." "I get along well with middle-aged women. They often see me as charming." "Please, she thinks you're a nice guy." "That's because I am." We shared a light kiss before I asked, "How are things going between you and Claire now?" "Actually pretty good. Things were tough for a while, but after our talk, I decided to reach out to her. It was a bit awkward at first, but after a few visits, we opened up about everything. There were tears, but talking helped me realize how much I love her, and I think she feels the same way. We managed to move past the jealousy." "Jealousy?" I asked. "Yeah, I had to face it. I was feeling jealous. I felt like she was pushing both of us away. You might not believe it, but I liked her too." She hugged me tightly and I whispered, "I knew that. It was clear." I don't think she realized that. I know she was seeing him, but I don't think they got close until after we parted ways. Maybe in some ways, but feelings are different. The truth is, Rose, I don't think either of us was really committed in the first place. We both had fun, but it was never meant to last. Still, it did help her through a tough time, and that's what matters. She sighed. "You're probably right, but she sure moved on quickly." "What's he like?" She hesitated. "If you hadn't been with her at the time, I would say he's great for her. He really is very kind." "I'm glad to hear that. She needed someone who would be there for her." "There's definitely something strong between them. He's truly in love with her, and she lights up like a happy schoolgirl when she's with him." I said, "Rose, I'm happy for her. I mean that. Our relationship gave me something important even if I can't explain it. I needed it just as much as she did." She smiled warmly at me. "I'm just happy to have you back. What do you want for dinner on your first night home?" "Something simple." She hurried into the kitchen to get started. I called after her. "I'm going to take a shower and change." The shower felt great. It was the first time in the house. I stood under the warm water, enjoying the soothing feel. I took my time, letting it wash away my thoughts. Rose. What to do now? She clearly hoped this was a fresh start. I felt a bit uneasy, like I was being pushed in a direction I wasn't sure about. Rose had taken what she wanted and moved into what was supposed to be my home. It was hard to feel angry with her. Maybe it was fair since I had seen how she turned my savings into a nice investment. She hadn't doubled my money, but it was close. With that money still growing, I didn't have to rush to find a new job. I could choose carefully and wait for the right opportunity. I changed into fresh clothes and walked into the kitchen. Dinner was already on the table. Rose smiled as I sat down across from her. The smell of the seared pork chops made my mouth water. She raised her glass and reached over to clink with mine. As our glasses met with a cheerful sound, she said, "To new beginnings." After taking a sip, I asked, "So, what's next?" She tried to smile, but her face looked a bit tense. She answered softly, "I guess that's up to you. There's a lot to consider, but remember you promised to move out when I got back." With a pained expression, she asked quietly, "Is that what you want?" "I'm not sure. I'm feeling confused. When I started building this house, I thought I knew exactly where I was going. But now I feel completely lost. Eddie, I can only tell you how I feel. I love you. I always have. I've made mistakes, everyone does. I hoped that while you were away, you'd have a change of heart and come back ready to start fresh. I want us to try again. Is that even possible, Rose? I'm not sure anymore. Just answer me this. Do you still love me?" She looked directly at me, her eyes searching for truth. "Yes, I do, but I'm not sure it's enough. Love needs other things to survive: trust, respect, understanding. I'm not certain we still have those." "Eddie, I have all those things for you." "Are you sure, Rose? I'm scared because I remember how quickly things changed. When you started listening to Tony, it felt like you lost all respect for me. It happened once, what's to stop it from happening again?" "I never stopped respecting you. I regret ever letting him sway me. It was a huge mistake, but I never lost respect for you." Well, it sure didn't feel that way. The smell and taste of the meal took over, and we both set the conversation aside while we ate. The wine was perfect, a great choice. Later, as we washed the dishes together, she finally spoke up. "Eddie, what do we have to lose? I don't want to leave. I don't want to waste any more time. I want to be your wife again. I want to go back to when we were young, when everything felt so good and right." She turned to me, her hands resting on my shoulders, her face close to mine. "Please, Eddie, let me be your wife again." Her lips met mine, and in that moment, it felt like no time had passed at all. The warmth between us was undeniable, pulling us back to memories of our younger days together. The room was filled with soft light streaming through the window, casting a gentle glow over everything. I reached out, touching her face as we shared a quiet, close moment. She looked at me, her eyes warm and full of trust. We held each other tightly, feeling safe and close, as if time itself had paused just for us. Our laughter filled the space as we talked, sharing stories and little secrets, connecting in a way that made everything else feel far away. She reached for my hand, pulling me closer, and we lay side by side, simply enjoying each other's presence. As we settled in, there was a calmness, a peace, and a kind of joy that felt almost magical. We held each other, finding comfort in every small gesture, every gentle smile, and every touch. The warmth of the moment wrapped around us, and nothing else seemed to matter. It was just us, together, in that perfect, quiet moment of closeness. I gave in to the strong feeling of love and warmth that filled my chest. We embraced, and Rose wrapped her legs around me, holding on tightly as our connection deepened. Our closeness grew stronger, and we held each other with such intensity, as if nothing else mattered. When we finally paused, exhausted yet content, our faces glistened with a light sheen, and we lay together, our breathing slow and steady, wrapped in the comfort of a quiet moment. I kissed her softly, a gentle gesture that spoke of our shared joy and peace. Lying beside each other, we let the calm settle over us, feeling fulfilled. Soon, sleep came over me. With Rose's warm body close, I drifted off into a deep, peaceful rest. It was late morning when I awoke to sunlight filling the room. Rose was no longer in bed. I got up and found her in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. I approached her from behind, wrapping my arms around her waist. She smiled and whispered, "Good morning, handsome." "Good morning to you, my love. This smells wonderful," I replied. She laughed softly. "So, am I still employed, or am I out?" I chuckled. "No, I think I'll keep you on, but you're on probation any slip-up and you're out." "Then, mister, move aside and let me finish cooking," she said playfully. I stepped back, letting her finish the eggs. When she had plated them, I spun her around and kissed her gently. She looked up at me with soft eyes. "You know, I do love you so much." After breakfast, Rose looked thoughtful. "What's next for us?" she asked. "I'm not sure," I replied, "but maybe we take things one day at a time and see where it goes." She nodded, looking hopeful. "Eddie, I thought a lot while you were gone. I kept wishing that when you came back, we'd be able to start fresh and really build something together." "I feel the same way, Rose," I said. "I love you, and I want to give this a real chance to start new and avoid the mistakes of the past." She came over and sat on my lap, looking into my eyes. "Eddie, I've been thinking of leaving the agency. I could focus on investing. It would give me more time at home, which is what I want." "Why is that important?" I asked. "Because I want us to start a family," she said, her voice soft but full of hope. "We always talked about it, and now with this home you built for us, I think it's time." Her eyes held such warmth and trust. I leaned in and kissed her softly. "It's a big step. Rose a family, kids. I need to find something steady, too." She smiled and kissed me again, whispering assurances that made my heart feel full. "Yes, but this time I want it to be local. Yes, no more traveling." "Eddie, I talked to Gordy a lot while you were away. He had a suggestion. You know those nice wooden beams you made?" I nodded. "Yes. Well, he thinks you could make some money from them. He's talked to other farmers, and they all have ideas about building new barns and making improvements. He thinks if you set up a workshop somewhere and made these beams, it could be successful." "Work for myself? That sounds great." "You can do it. You're smart. Your own business, our business, a family business." I suddenly got an idea. "You know, you wouldn't be the only one working from home. If I did this, I could build a workshop right here. We have plenty of space." A big smile spread across her face as she said, "Oh yes, we could do it." We paused for a moment, both of us imagining what this could be. Honestly, her mention of a family business didn't fully register with me at the time, but when I looked at her, I could tell she seemed a bit let down. As the silence stretched, she asked, "You understood what I meant, right?" "Of course. You mean we could start our own business." She smiled and nodded. "A family business, one that we can pass down." I was still a bit confused. She sighed. "Eddie, do I have to say it clearly? Children, we have everything we need. A home, enough money, and both of us working from home. Eddie, I want to start our family now. Not next week, not in a year. I want to begin now. Picture this beautiful house with our children running around." I frowned, not because I was upset with her, but because of what she was suggesting. "Rose, are we ready for that? We've just reconnected and you want to add kids into the mix?" "Yes, Eddie, children. It's time." I have to admit I wasn't thrilled with the idea. Yes, I loved her, or at least had deep feelings for her, but kids. In the next few days, we focused on rebuilding our relationship. We talked late into the night, making plans and notes. I spoke to Gordy, who introduced me to some local farmers interested in my ideas. They could use the beams to make their barns more spacious and useful. Meeting people who were interested made me feel more confident. I talked to Mark, and he thought the beams were a great idea with many possible uses, if I could set a good price. Later, at Gordy's barn, we sat outside sipping some homemade cider. It was strong, much stronger than I expected. It had quite an impact. As we opened our third bottle and the talk flowed comfortably, I suddenly asked, "Gordy, how did you know it was the right time to start your family?" He looked at me seriously. "Young one, I can't really explain that. All I can say is I just had a feeling. If you're thinking about starting a family with Rose, then do it. Because if you hesitate, someone else might step in. When I didn't say anything, he said firmly, Laddie, Rose is a wonderful girl. I don't understand why you were with Claire when you had her. I heard Rose talking to Beth, and she is eager to start. If you wait too long, she might move on. You could lose her, son. I felt embarrassed, and he chuckled. Well, Laddie, Claire is an attractive woman, and we were all a bit jealous when we learned you were with her, but Rose is special too. That night, I stumbled home to find Rose curled up on the sofa with her laptop. She tried to explain her program, but I was a bit tipsy and filled with excitement. Rose, let's make it happen. Her expression changed from one of worry to joy. Are you saying what I think you are? Yes, let's start right away. Let's have a baby. Sweetheart, it's not that simple. I have to stop my medication and it won't happen overnight. I don't mind. We can begin practicing, right? She laughed playfully. Yes, we can practice, but you're so tipsy that it might be tough. I took her hand and placed it on my waist. Don't worry about me. You might not think those simple words could make a difference, but they really did. Our moments together became deeper, filled with care and meaning. Everything felt more connected. There were other things on my mind, too. I was working on plans for a big shed workshop. I bought proper tools and started looking for affordable steel suppliers. I didn't want a pre-made shed. I wanted to design and build my own. I was determined to show off my creative ideas. The shed would serve as my display. I knew Rose still saw Claire pretty often, but I hadn't seen or spoken to her since I returned. I wanted to reach out, but I wasn't sure how. I worried that Rose might misunderstand my intentions. I didn't need to stress over it, though, because Rose brought it up herself. Sweetheart, I spoke to Claire today. She wants to come over, but she's worried about how you'll react. She feels scared. She doesn't need to be worried. I want to see her too. Just to say hello and try to rebuild our friendship. Good, because she'll be here soon. Please be kind. She's been very anxious about this. Claire arrived about 15 minutes later. She walked in looking beautiful as always, her golden hair flowing down her soft skin, her bright eyes shining, and her light green dress fluttering gracefully, showing off her long legs. How do you say hello to an ex in front of your wife? It felt a bit strange. She made it just as hard as I did. Eventually we hugged. As we held each other, I could feel her warmth. The kiss we shared was quick, just a light touch. But the hug lasted longer. I looked over at Rose, feeling a bit guilty, but she just smiled kindly. Claire finally pulled away and said softly, Hello, Eddie. It's so nice to see you again. She looked me over and added, You look healthy and sun-kissed. I'm a little jealous. Don't be, you still look wonderful. The words slipped out before I could think. I glanced at Rose, but if she was upset, she didn't show it. Claire noticed I was uneasy. Eddie, I am so sorry for what happened between us. I was thinking only of myself. Claire, it's all right. It seems like it worked out for the best. Rose tells me you're very much in love now. She blushed slightly. It wasn't right of me. I should have talked to you first, but it all took me by surprise. Howard is a great guy. That's good to hear. I'm glad you found someone to love. Eddie, I cared about you deeply, and I still have strong feelings for you. Maybe not in a romantic way, but I feel a bond with you. I want the best for you. Thanks, Claire. I feel the same way. What we had was special, and it will always be a cherished memory for me. For that, I am thankful. I don't know if I'd be where I am without you. She pulled me into another hug. Rose stepped in then. How about we go outside for some wine? Just like that, Claire re-entered my life. There were some awkward moments. Meeting Howard, my old rival, felt strange at first, but he turned out to be just like Rose said, a sweet, friendly guy. He was a successful businessman like Tony, but he was much more easygoing. He even became a supporter as I worked on starting my business. The day Rose told me she was having a baby was unforgettable. She came to bring me lunch while I was busy putting together some support beams for the new workshop. She placed my meal on the table, along with a bottle of my favorite beer. What's the beer for? I asked. You might want to celebrate, she said, when you see what I have to share. Confused, I replied, If we're celebrating, where's yours? Because of my condition, doctors say I shouldn't drink. She handed me a test strip. I dropped it in shock when I understood, and we both embraced. I spun her around joyfully, her feet swinging in the air. The birth was a wonderful event on its own. I stayed with her the entire time. I even cut the umbilical cord. Claire waited anxiously in the waiting room. When she held little Avalon, our daughter, the pure love on her face was a beautiful sight. I worried she might feel jealous since she couldn't have children herself, but instead, it was the opposite. Claire was completely devoted to Avalon, treating her like a princess. Avalon wanted for nothing, and it was hard to take her away from Claire's loving embrace. The feelings were mutual, too. There was a strong connection between them right from the start. It's interesting how life unfolds. Hey, everyone! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the exciting stories we have coming up. What do you think about the characters in this story? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.